up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Flicking with Skip. This is your boy, Skip Morazi, a writer and producer for Cox in Space, here with Logan Gifford, who is also a writer and actor and producer on Cox in Space. And we are here to finally talk about a movie that we have been dying to talk about for ages now. And that is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino, 2019, and rates 7.6. So not his highest ranking film, but I will tell you that this one, I believe, will outrank. It'll be like this. I think it'll be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and right behind that will be The Hateful Eight, and then third behind that will be Django Unchained for movies that overall, like history, will like rank out in Tarantino's filmography. Logan, I know you just muted yourself, and I apologize. This being the time that I'm switching over to you.
No, it's fine. I can come right back.
How are you this week, and what are your thoughts on what we're about to undertake?
Well, it's been good this week. For the faithful who have been paying attention, I'd gotten hurt in May. I broke my wrist.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's been mentioned on the podcast, but I recently made a return to
you
work.
missed it a bunch, actually. So I think people were listening and then disappeared for a while. So I think that, I mean, people would like to know. All right, cool. So you made it back.
Yes, sir, I have. I worked pretty much damn near a full week this week. I got about 43 hours, and I fixed every damn thing I touched. So it's a good feeling to be back, to be back and to be helping people.
That's awesome. And how do you feel about the undertaking we're about to take on, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Do you have any intro thoughts without getting into anything specific?
Well, as a Tarantino fan, because I remember, this whole conversation came about when we mentioned we met at the Mission, and I tried to turn you on to Tarantino, and you're like, nah.
Yeah, well, and we have definitely talked about in each of these episodes for sure about Pulp Fiction, and I think like the basis is still grounded. Like Pulp Fiction is edited to seem interesting, and I argue that it is interesting, and so it doesn't need to be edited that way. That's basically where I landed on that one. And then also we've addressed become such a huge fan of Tarantino all this time, which is why I'm personally excited to be talking about this movie in particular, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Because I would argue, like I said in the opening, I would say that this is his highest ranked film, should be his highest ranked film. And there's a lot of reasons for it. One of the reasons we're talking about pre-show is that it's kind of like a culmination of all his shows, all his previous movies. And so it's like bringing everything that he's done good together. Again, let me give you another piece of backstory that I found out in the intervening weeks between the last time we met and now, is that and Tarantino got married in 2018, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood comes out in 2019, which is one of the reasons. What's that?
I said, did he remarry, or did he just marry his fiance of 20 years?
He got married. I didn't know that they were fiance for however long. The last name is Pick. She's an Israeli actress.
Oh, I thought he was with a black chick for the longest time. I don't know why.
I'm not sure. But I just think it's a coincidental timing that he got married. And then he writes this really very different movie. One of the things I commented in the green room was that it's the movie that doesn't have hardly any violence in it, which is if you're going to go see a Tarantino movie, that's wildly unexpected. No violence whatsoever. It's like going to the guy from King of the Hill going to his barbecue and he's using charcoal. You just be
yeah.
Well, where's your propane? And your propane accessories. But still, I think that's why it's rating it at 7.6, because I think people are rating it for what they were expecting it to be as a Tarantino film, because they went in wanting to see him do, I'm going to do a kind of a spoiler, the bloodiest Charles Manson movie that ever existed. because they knew it was Tarantino. And I love this movie. I'm not going to spoil it yet because we'll get to all the different pieces. But I like this movie because it's the longest shaggy dog that I've ever heard or seen. Like Tarantino pulls off a shaggy dog joke. You know what a shaggy dog joke is, right?
It's essentially a joke about nothing, right?
Yeah, you go on this long story, and then you get to the punchline, and the punchline is so dumb and meaningless. You can't believe that you got bamboozled again by your uncle so and so who told you this long and meaningless story.
So kind of like the knick-knack paddywhack joke from Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, give the total loan.
Yeah,
and so
paddywhack, give that total loan.
It's you try to drag it out as far as possible, and Tarantino clocking in again at 2 hours and 41 minutes does that.
An epic of a feature film was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So he does that a lot. Like his films, I've been noticing more and more that people are just kind of expecting films to be that long. And realistically, yes, like a 90-minute film, I'm like realizing isn't really sufficient to get in that third act. And I think that's why, older films that were cut to those had kind of like this missing ending. But Tarantino kind of broke through that because all of his movies have been right about that length. And
they seem complete.
And they seem complete. And that's the thing that I was getting at. Thanks for bringing that thought back around. Yeah. Like he has a nice setup in all of his movies, and then he has a nice like middle act, and then he has like a nice like summary to all of it. And he really does. I mean, like, and he justifies using all that time. There's, in my opinion, especially when we were talking about The Hateful Eight, there's no wasted moments in any Tarantino film. There's been, in all the movies that I've seen of his, there's been no frames where I was like, yeah, you could probably cut that out. I mean, we did talk about in Django where the actress is like, we wish that they'd cast anyone who was like stronger.
Carrie Hilson was very flowery in that movie.
Yeah, but
it's not to say that she's not a great, African American actress, but it's to say that I feel like Tarantino had more respect for her as a character than to make her this helpless little creature, and I mean, that's just me.
One of the things that I was thinking is that I think he may have been playing into the stereotype of the Western woman.
Right, like a damsel in distress.
Is the shrinking violet. Yeah, and I don't know for sure if Tarantino ever reached out to us and was like, "Hey guys, I'd like to be in your podcast." That's what Tarantino sounds like in my head. I'll be like,
we could talk about toes.
Yeah. So we would be able to ask him questions like that. Like, what is it that you like? What was your mission behind this woman and like casting her? Because I feel like Tarantino's not dumb. You know what I mean? Like one thing I've learned in this like setup is like he really knows what he's doing. So that he cast her, I think there was a reason. What that reason was, I couldn't tell you, but he rarely misses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that was the one, and I think I mentioned it last show where I was like, if it were left up to me, that was the one role in all of his movies that I think was, I don't even want to say miscast because, like you say, he might have had a point to it. It might have been a deeper symbolism. There might have been,
that was the only thing is like, I believe that you're right. Like, I also believe that you're right that like it feels wrong. And then also I have this niggling question that kind of believes, and I want to give him the benefit of a doubt because I have not doubted him for so long, but I don't want to swing so far as to say like everything he does is genius and he can make no mistakes. Because he's a person, and that's what people people are capable of making mistakes, and it's okay, and nobody gets like your world doesn't fall apart.
Right. Yeah. The world doesn't stop spinning because you fuck up.
Yeah. If an artist has one flaw, it doesn't mean like all of their work is meaningless. Like you can love their flaws as well, as you mentioned with Tarantino's feet, which I'm excited about because we're finally going to address it on this show. I've been waiting 3 weeks to tell you this discovery. And we've had private conversations. I was like, nope, I can't tell you about this because we need to discuss it. I want to hear your thoughts live. So but we have far to go and many sights to see. So okay, you ready to get into it? Or you feel like
Absolutely, yeah.
we've done a good lead up?
One of the things I was gonna say that introduced, like like the intro monologue there was you asked if I had any opening thoughts, and I will say, like I said, I kind of brought up the story about us meeting and talking about Tarantino.
Yeah.
So like for me as like a Tarantino fan, this movie actually took me the longest to watch.
Okay, which is fair. Yeah, I think that this is very unlike Tarantino.
Yeah, this movie came out in 2019, and I didn't bother to watch it until you told me the series was being made. And I was like, I was like, man, I better go watch. I better go watch Tarantino's latest film.
Yeah, just for the record. And then okay, so and your initial response was?
I enjoyed it.
Okay,
I liked it. I think it was. I don't want to say his best work, but I do want to say one of his most passionate work. He cared about this movie.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And one of the things that I think that we came to the conclusion on in a previous one, I can't remember which one it was. So guys, if you want message below or whatever. But it's that all of his later works, they're all great for different reasons. And it's not really fair to compare them, because they all have different goals. And you can you're like, these are just great pieces of art that you should just respect independently.
Right. And that's actually what I was going to come back and say, like Quentin Tarantino, he doesn't make movies for the typical movie lover, I guess you would say. He's very he has his own very distinct style, and if you don't like it, you probably have never liked anything Tarantino's ever made.
I mean, that's fair.
But for the people who enjoy the type of thing that he does, I feel like he makes things and I don't want to say he just makes things exclusively for fans of his style.
Well, so this is what's interesting about Tarantino is he makes movies for people who love movies, because Tarantino loves movies.
Right. So I guess
he's been making movies for himself. But there's a lot of people who like what he likes, which is films. That's why you see in every corner of his films, there's little like film references poked everywhere, because he's like, I just love them so much. And he's like, probably somewhere on the spectrum being a little dork about films. And so like everything's connected to him when he starts to make a movie.
I will acknowledge that I agree with the thought that, or like completely contradicts my original thought that, Quentin Tarantino doesn't exactly make movies for like your average film goer, but it's like,
well, it's wild.
It's not exactly but I guess it's not exactly contradictory, because like people who love movies and your average person who goes and sees like a Marvel movie have very different tastes. So I guess my initial statement is not contradictory to yours.
No, and also I don't think that. So I think there's something weird that's happened, right? Is that I think when Tarantino started, he was a nerd that loved film. And then films had become like a really big thing in American culture, like way bigger than they were, in my opinion, in Tarantino's day. I might be totally wrong, but like you have the birth of the blockbuster. You have like Lucas and Spielberg coming up. You have Scorsese doing films. And they're becoming like a mass market because it's easy to like watch movies, and we've gotten to the age of streaming and stuff like that. So people have become like connoisseurs. So, and it's pretty common now, but I think it's sort of the thing because of what Tarantino was doing, where he was showing how cool it was to be like a connoisseur of film. And like, if you knew all these little things, then you knew like more stuff about Pulp Fiction than the average person had seen it, because it was like really, really nuanced, like art language. So, so I think it's both true. It's like, it's not really for the average person. It's for like the select group of nerds, but then also that group of nerds has grown over like 2 decades.
Right.
Something like that. So yeah, it's interesting. It's cool that he's had such a long career and that we've been able to look at so much of it.
That, and just like to see his art form evolve, or I guess to see the director.
That was the thought I was having. Thank you.
Evolve into the art that it seems like ultimately wanted to create with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I think I concluded the last week's episode with this thought that if Tarantino may this never happen, and may he live long time, make another dozen movies. But if it was that this was his last movie ever, that we no longer have the Tarantino, I think that you could say that his work was complete. um,
Yeah,
with this film. So
absolutely.
yeah, and I don't feel like that's an exaggeration in any stretch of the imagination. It's really cool because it starts off immediately with the introduction of the main characters. He's just learned over time how to introduce a good story and do it well. So it comes with Leo and Brad Pitt. Um, but first we see this like what he does, like this Dalton character, where he's like this action hero of the like black and white TV era. Um, and we can see him on Bounty Law as the heavy. It sort of plays
Bounty
in,
law.
yeah, Bounty Law, which is so fun, because like as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, Tarantino, I know you love doing like little like tributes of style. So like here you are just doing it because you love it and doing it well because it's Leonardo DiCaprio, but he looks like he's on a show from that era, from like I think it's the 40s or 50s. No, I'm sorry. Of course, it's Tate, right? So we're talking about the 60s here, right?
Right. Yeah, we're talking about like 60s, 70s with
60 or 70.
with one of the incoming antagonists.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I get dates confused. So we get to see that, but then right after it does that, it goes into where Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio are having this interview together. Because Brad Pitt is Cliff Booth, which is his stunt double. And one of the things that he says that, like, I didn't know what the whole movie was about, but one of the things that he says, like Brad Pitt's character says, is that since he's a stunt double, he carries Leo's load. Like he says Dalton's, but that's what his role is to carry his load, which I immediately just thought was like such a cool way to set up the dynamics between these characters, because we saw that even before we knew everything that was going to happen next, we saw that we had this two dudes who were like paired together, and then we find out that the actor Dalton isn't drunk and he can't get himself to rehearsals, or he can't get himself to shoots because his license would take away. That Cliff really does look out for him. He's like his bro of bros. He like celebrates Cliff's successes, or he celebrates Dalton's successes, even though Dalton leaves him behind and doesn't like help him get jobs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just like he might be paid, but they're really good friends. And I this is one of the things that I love about this film. This is like, because this is a romantic film, but one of the central romances of this film is these two bros, and how Brad Pitt is going to be there for his bro regardless of what happens.
Did Tarantino to successfully write like a bromance movie?
Yeah, well, it's like that's one of the romances of this movie. Like, so one of the overarching themes of this is that he loves this era, right? Like, we know that he loves the 60s and 70s. Like, that's just he loves it so much. And so he wrote a film about how he wants it to be and how he really thinks that how it felt and what it could have been. And so like that's one of his loves. And one of his loves is to Sharon Tate and Margot Robbie's feet. And that's one of his loves. I thought I was gonna slip right by, but it did not. And so the other thing he loves is like the doing, we know now, period pieces. And so we see him do actually two period pieces simultaneous in this movie. So there's so much romance in this, in my opinion. Like it definitely feels like, and that's why I called out that he had just gotten married. And it was probably in the year that they were like leading up to that too. He was working on this film. Is that he was just, when he was started writing it, when he started directing it, I feel like he was probably very much in love, because this movie is like the movie of a man who is in love. It like pours out, and I never thought I'd say that about a Tarantino movie. That's why I love it so much.
See, and that's what's really cool about, like, as we've witnessed, like as we've gone through his filmography, you can tell there's a level of maturing happening, because he kind of deviates away from, like like in Kill Bill, he's kind of using violence as a means to an end of like, this is how this woman gets retribution.
Right.
Whereas
sure.
like in Hateful Eight, the violence is a means to get the story across. Like the only way they're going to make it out of there is if they kill each other.
It's necessary for them to do it. Yeah. I was going to
Right,
point that out.
exactly.
I can't remember if we did talk about this, but yeah, that was one of the things that you notice after Kill Bill, even in Django Unchained, is he tries to make sure that if violence is used, it's used in a necessary way. And I
Just,
can't remember if we
yeah.
did talk about this. We may have, so I apologize if it's redundant, but I feel like he may have internalized what happened with his early career because people were cited like having his movies, like not even ones he directed, but the ones he wrote, like as part of their filmography when they went on to go do like mass shootings and stuff like that. And I think that something happened in his brain, and he kind of had to think about that. And then later in his like the rest of it, you see that he's kind of like heroes do it for good reasons, and you see villains do it for really bad reasons.
Right, for reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like Revenge, it was an interesting movie, right? And it's definitely a tribute to those types of movies, but I don't think that's where Tarantino's brain goes anymore.
Right.
Like, and so you started with that thought with maturing.
It's not violence for violence's sake anymore. Like I said, like he's gotten to a point now where he uses violence for a reason, which and I apologize for talking in circles, but
No, I think it can't be understated because again, Tarantino was known, especially in his early career, and this is one of the reasons I was turned off for it. Pulp Fiction, when the story's not laid out clearly, seems like nonsensical violence. We don't know why the things are happening. And then there's just like it's just happening. It's just the people getting shot and killed, and
yeah,
getting tortured in a basement, etc.
Yeah.
So if you're a chicken brain like me over here, then like you just kind of like plug Tarantino into that slot. And I think that this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, breaks that mold like so hard. Because he has matured.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things too that you'll notice right in the early portion of this film is when they pull out of the lot when Brad Pitt is driving, they actually have the names of the actor and the name of the names of the actors are switched on the two characters. So Leonardo DiCaprio is in the passenger seat, but his name is on the back of the seat behind Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt is on the right hand side behind under DiCaprio. Now, it might be that he's higher paid, and so that's like a mandatory and necessary thing because of one of the things in his contract. I don't know about DiCaprio's contracts. That's speculation. But when I saw it, the way that he did it, it seemed like he was clearly denoting that while the stuntman is the one who you expect to be like not the main character, he certainly is. And that's what he put. Yeah, like Tarantino's like, how you normally think about DiCaprio? Well, it's Brad Pitt right now.
Right, yeah.
And so like it's really cool. Like Tarantino, I feel like does like subconscious things like that, where it's not necessarily subconscious, but it's like he intentionally does stuff to like make you like notice little details. And that keeps happening. And then as you get to the end of the film, it turns out it is the story of Cliff Booth. Spoilers to everyone, but we're gonna go there because the ending of this is way more fantastic. I do want to call out that at the beginning of the movie, I was hesitant also because we hadn't talked about Inglourious Basterds, and I still wasn't sure where I was standing with the whole revisionist history thing, and I felt like this was one of that. Like it was going to be like that because of the name, right? It's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
right?
So you're like, okay, I mean, like I know about Inglourious Basterds. Like, what is this? And I didn't know about the whole Manson thing until the movie started. And by that time, it's too late, of course, because the magic had overswept. So
yeah.
Speaking of which,
but
sorry.
I mean, I was just gonna say, seeing this movie before you saw Inglourious Basterds, I think you did an injustice to yourself.
No, I've seen Inglourious Basterds before, but I wasn't sure how I felt about the revisionist history aspect of it until we had talked about it. Because like it was like knowing about that and then seeing this movie and then thinking about like Tarantino, like how I think that everything could be fiction. Like if you're making a film, regardless of the base, what it's based on, it's always slightly a lie, right? And so he is just telling us about the world that he wished we could live in. Just the way the science fiction writer writes about the distant future that they wish they could live in.
Right.
But you know, he just wishes the 60s and 70s turned out differently than that, and he wishes that World War II was, you know, the bad guys were killed, to not get censored on YouTube. Um, we also get to see that Margot Robbie lives next door to Dalton. I think his first name's Richard Dalton, but the actor that Leonardo DiCaprio is playing in the movie.
Yeah, I don't remember his first name. I for some reason I want to say it's Leo Dalton. I don't know why.
I don't think that's correct. I mean, we can figure it out. It's not a huge deal. He is called Dalton more often than not, and also mostly by now. So I was mentioning him as Leo anyway. Pause real quick. I mean, because first of all, we get Margot Robbie, and then when I started to realize that it was the Manson story, I was like, oh no, it's Sharon Tate, and of course she is
Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate.
Sharon Tate, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But I just want to.
What I thought was really funny about that is that we ultimately see Sharon Tate's feet in the film.
And we will get to that. There's a whole like centerpiece that I want to talk about as like one unit, because I do think it's brilliant writing and cinematography, and her feet are part of that centerpiece. Is it okay if we hold off until then to talk about Margot Robbie's feet? All of you feet.
That's just the one big criticism I have about Tarantino.
Oh, hold up. Wait, I mean, you can if you want to, but also hold up. I've got something for you, man. We got to get down there. I just want to talk about Dalton as a character, though, for Leonardo DiCaprio, because
I think he did it well.
Yeah. Okay. So remember we were talking about him in Django, right?
Yeah.
And
he acted his ass off in Django.
Yeah, it's just so amazing, like the character that he's playing. It's just, you know, obviously it's so different from, you know, other characters that he's played. Like he's always giving you a unique experience. We definitely did a whole DiCaprio like shout out, I think in 2. But like this one, I just think it's so cool. Have you ever seen Don't Look Up, about a science professor and there's like an asteroid coming to Earth? It's another DiCaprio movie.
I didn't see it, but I heard about it. Didn't it come out around quarantine, like 2020, 2021?
That would make sense. It kind of has that feeling to it, and I don't know why quarantine movies have that feeling to it. But whatever. So he plays a character that's similar to that, which is a guy. It's interesting who has some issues. You know what I mean? Like Dalton is a very interesting character to me because on screen he's a heavy, and so like, and we get to see this later. But like in person, like he's just like he's a nervous wreck, right? Like he's twitching, he's coughing. Obviously he's such a big baby. He can't even drive.
Cigarette.
He's constantly smoking cigarettes. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very neurotic as a person, but on screen he's this very cool, you know, like level-headed villain. You know, calculated even, and it's a shame that you like, and it almost makes you feel, because he, like I said, he plays both roles so well that it almost makes you feel bad for Leo's character, the person, and not Leo's character, the actor. You know, because it's like, as an actor, yeah, he's fantastic, but as a person, he needs to fucking get it together.
Yeah. I'm going to skip forward real quick because I think this is an appropriate time to bring it up. There's a part where he trips over his lines in a scene. He like blanks on his lines in the middle of the scene and have to reset the scene, which is a really fun bit of cinematography because you get to see the scene unfolding and then the reverse of the scene and the scene unfolding again, but like as if you're watching it from the lens. It's real fun. But he goes back to his trailer and he screams at himself like, if you don't get your lines right, I'm gonna, I'm gonna end it all.
He essentially, threatens to, we'll keep it family friendly.
Yeah.
To end it all, you know,
to self-delete, and those sorts of things. So that's like, it's just like how like crazy this dude is. But then also like, and later when we get to see this in the film, and this is again a tribute to like what a great actor Leo is he plays both of these characters in the film, and he plays them
Yes.
like at will. It's like it's not a slip. Like you get for instance, when Dalton, even though he's wearing the makeup, is still Dalton, and when he's on camera being like this brute.
It's amazing to just watch someone flip the switch like that. And I mean, I don't, and again, shout out to Leo, but shout out to Tarantino for knowing Leo could do that as an actor.
Right. Well, that was you hit in both the things I wanted to point out. Yeah. Right, yeah, because like who can play a character who's playing a character? Now it's interesting that he's done this before because he did it in Django also.
Right,
and we also commented how Steven, Samuel L. Jackson's character was also a character playing a character. But this is like intentional, so you get to see it, right? Like there's this character, and inside that there's another character, and then I'll also say neither one of those is Leonardo DiCaprio. One of the movie's common themes is this difference between what a fan's seeing and then what what it looks like to make a film. It goes a couple of times actually. You see Margot when she has her feet up on the seat. There's actually more going on in that scene. Like she is watching herself perform. And she's enjoying the performance, but also she's enjoying the people enjoying her performance, which is a really interesting thing. The meme where this movie gave us, which I mean, thank you, Leo, for giving us so many great memes over the years.
Absolutely.
But this one where he's holding the beer can, wearing the yellow sweater, and pointing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. I can just you've seen it so many times. That comes from this movie because he's doing the thing. Hey, look, it's me. I'm on the. I think it's called like FBI's Most Wanted or something like that. He's a heavy on one of these shows. So it's just this where we get to see him, and it just come from he'd had a really hard day on set, and he almost like decided to like self-delete. Instead, he's coming home to watch the show that apparently everybody in the movie was ready to watch that night. It's a pretty big deal. Yeah. I mentioned it a bunch of times. Like the whole reason that Bruce Dern is having a nap is because he has to watch this movie, watch this TV show when it comes out. So I just jumped way ahead into when he gets to the camp.
Yeah. Chronologically, I think is the best way to talk about this movie. Not to like shit on you for for like bringing it up, but like I feel like for this movie specifically, we should stick to chronologically.
Yeah, I'm here right there actually. This is
a pretty important story that plays out.
Yeah, the thing that you see next is Michael Madsen. Actually, it's the cameo of Michael Madsen where he's on the set with
Michael Madsen.
Yeah. He only shows up for like a brief shot, but I was like, it's cool how Tarantino like has remembered his friends. Again, I'm going to include that Bruce Dern is in this movie. Bruce Dern is also in The Hateful Eight. Like Bruce Dern has been in a number of movies. Like Tarantino makes sure that he keeps working. So it's just cool that he keeps doing that. There is a really fun shot that I did not share with you, that I didn't get a clip of. But we get to see this extreme juxtaposition between Leo. He's basically like showing a demo reel of like the work that Leo has done over the years. And so it goes from him being like in a black and white like cowboy movie, and then cuts to him like singing doo-wop in full color. And I just, again, I was just like Tarantino, like. He just loves these styles so much. He like loves the distinction between different eras and what they mean and what the tones are and like all this sorts of thing, right? And so like
and also shout out to the makeup department for like in that doo-wop scene making Leo look 20.
Right.
I
mean like and like full costumes and everything. Like it's just so fun to see Tarantino enjoying what he enjoys, because it turns out a lot of us also enjoy what he enjoys. So it's just, like him being a dork with like the styles. This isn't the only time you see it either. Like there's a whole bunch of other times later in the movie where you see like him in different films, and you're just like, Tarantino just aping of these different films. So um, you want to talk about Al Pacino in the restaurant?
Man, Al Pacino's role in this movie was awesome. What a delight to see him as well. I mean, like even at his old age, just seeing him on screen is delightful.
Yeah,
I
it's
will say
fun.
that when I was a young man, one of my comfort movies was Scarface.
Nice.
And
Wow.
the only
Yeah,
reason I say that is because it was the time following Katrina, and that was like all we had.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You want to say hello
So
to my little friend?
yeah, I learned to coast at a Cuban level by the time I was like 10 or 11.
So one of the things I do love about this scene is that Pacino delivers one of these monologues we've talked about several times. And it hits different. You know what I mean? Like the same way that when the watch monologue, Christopher Walken delivers the watch monologue, right? Like
Yeah.
it just when they deliver his monologues, and I don't think he's doing now. I have a feeling that he's just because he seems more to be musing than he does to be ranting, which is very different than when you're like down.
Right.
So that's awesome. Good for you, Tarantino. I hope that you're like all the way clean because that's an expensive habit to have, no matter how much money you have.
Right.
But yeah, so he's like, you're gonna be beating up this guy, you're gonna be beating up that guy. He's like trying to talk him into spaghetti westerns, and he's like, I can talk to a guy.
Right.
And so the way that he does it is tearing down this guy who already feels so small about himself. Fun monologue, and then he goes out, our heavy goes out and starts crying in the parking lot and can barely smoke a cigarette.
That's it, buddy. I'm washed up.
Yeah, I'm washed up. He wants me to beep in westerns, like spaghetti westerns.
I'm gonna go to Italy. And it was like an agreement or something. I think he gave him they want me to go to Italy for like 5 years.
And, yeah, to do like several pictures.
Yeah.
And so like just
like a pretty striking scene too, because like like the whole time he's being presented as like this guy who's like, very popular actor and his stunt double. And it's like, this whole time you think he's on the top of the world. And that's the first time, or one of the first times rather, that you see him question himself or like crack.
Right, where we get to see why Dalton like is a big mess, is because he can't handle the pressure of all the things that are happening.
Right, but it's also like it's also noted to, or it's also worth noting, I guess you could say, that a lot of the pressure that he experiences is pressure that he puts on himself. It's his own expectations that he sets for greatness.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what makes him great.
Average Joe, hell, dude, I'll go to Italy and be in movies, but to this guy, he's like, oh, they want me to go to Italy, it's a death sentence.
Right, for his career.
Right, so it kind of shows this juxtaposition between, I think, Brad's character and Leo's character, because Brad is like, okay, let's go to Italy, let's go be in movies.
So he's like, let's shout out, because we haven't talked about it yet, that Cliff Booth has gotten a sequel, a David Fincher sequel, which I think is fantastic. I think
so. There's going to be another Cliff Booth movie.
Yes, so there's going to be another Cliff Booth movie, and it's starring Brad Pitt, and it's directed by David Fincher. David Fincher of many movies, but also Fight Club specifically.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, and so many other movies. It's not the first time he's worked with Brad. I think he worked with them. I think they did 7 together. I think that's their first movie together. But I'm not sure. I would have to look it up. I might be totally wrong about that reference. That's just off the top of my head. But I'm really excited about it because Cliff Booth, like for this movie, was absolutely great. And like Django, like totally believe he has a lot of mileage because he can just be that cool guy anywhere. And he seems to have a backstory. We never found out about his wife, for instance, and whether or not, he killed her or if he believes that he killed her. We haven't got to the
Right. It was
dating
like a
yet.
super weird, like ambiguous story that they left around Cliff Booth, which was fun and intriguing.
Yeah, he's definitely an intriguing character. He goes where he wants and he does what he wants, but he's not really trying to be confrontational to anybody. It's a very very nice balance, and Brad Pitt has many years like learning how to perfect that. And not to say he's one note because he's very very nuanced in that as well, but he knows how to do that and be realistic. He's not just a Fonz is what I'm getting at, but he has all the cool points.
He has this type of human swagger about how he portrays these characters, where it's like you could believe that someone could be this cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's and there's some really fantastic. I love that character a lot. I really do. So that's why I'm excited about that movie coming out. So there's a shot that if I was going to do like an ultra cut on this podcast, what I do is show you this shot in connection with a number of other shots. But when they arrive home for the first time, they go up through, it's that private drive, right? This is a big like part of the story. It's Cielo.
Yeah, they
live on Cielo. Cielo meets heaven. Which a lot of people have pointed out the irony of in the face of the Manson murders, that she was already living on Heaven Street. Yeah.
That's actually a fun fact. I did not know that.
So when I saw it, I was like, that's what first clued me in. I was like,
your weird director boyfriend, who I don't remember the name of.
It's Polanski.
Polanski. How can I forget?
Yeah, how can you forget that? Wow, which I have to delete out, unfortunately, because it needs to be said and it's true. The unfortunate,
you spend all this time editing. I think we could just beep some things.
That one, it's the same difference. Like you could either edit it or you can beep it, but the same thing. It takes time to put something in the place of words like that. I should say whatever the sub words are that are appropriate. But don't let it escape that Roman Polanski. You can feel sorry for him or whatever. This is a tragedy that happened to him, but like dude has definitely a kid and probably more than one. I'll bleep that out too. But
notorious child liker.
And then also has like been notorious in that like admitted and it was like, what's the problem with all the rest of you? Which makes him a predator. So that's not the sort of person you want to keep around your kids. And it's unfortunate he's alive still. Not that someone should go out and go cap him. Yeah, but he doesn't live in America. And so he's continuing to make films. And so this is the worst part, is that he does make good films. And they're often very interesting and they're like well put together. But like, now he's making money off of that. And you're like, dude, now I'm supporting this guy who definitely likes children, admittedly.
Right.
So anyway, the thing that bothers me is that now I'm stuck in this moral quandary because I'm like I accidentally saw this movie that I liked and I found out it was a Roman Polanski movie and you jerk. Like... Anyway, not Tarantino, right?
I can play some things, but we're not on Patreon right now.
Yeah, exactly. We will. We'll have guys. If you wanted to be a part of the conversation afterwards when we talk more about this, you could have joined us in the Discord. Obviously, since you're not here now, but in the future, you can always go to coxinspace.com, join us in the Discord when you catch these shows, so we can actually catch up on some of this stuff. Anyway, so
we love talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and it is. There's more to be said. Again, we're not going to say that out there, but that's the conflicting feelings I have about that. I don't have those feelings about Tarantino, and we're getting closer to it. This is where when he first pulls in, we see that happen. The reason I show you this 3 shots together is because there's something really interesting that happens with these shots. You see, there's the way that it's set up. I can't quite explain it. I wish I could show you the visual, but it's like the shot looks like it has a secret. So because you have this one like big like avenue that goes like straight ahead, and then the one that they pull up is like basically looks like an alley, right? And so he did it in a really interesting way that called attention to it, but then not like, just so like if you're watching films, you like know what he's trying to do. He's like just telling you visually what's going on.
It's very subtle to the average, like I said, like to the average person watching like who just goes to watch a movie and not admire a film, like the average person watching a movie is not going to pick up on that nuance.
Yeah, I think Tarantino put it in there because he's a big nerd, and like he just likes to have little details. Just like the same thing with Wes Anderson, like he's a big nerd and he likes to have all his visual details exactly where he wants them, and that's awesome. That's why we like to see those movies, right? So like, and that's what he was doing, and so and when you go through the movie, I'm just going to tie them all together so that we can talk about them. But we see the cars come out of there. Like the next thing that happens is Cliff takes the convertible and he pulls out of that same alleyway and is pulling on the wrong side of the road and driving down the wrong side of the road as he's coming around, right? This tells us the story of who Cliff is. We see him do that again later. We see Sharon and Polanski pull into that same secret driveway. And the way that they're using it's always in bright daylight. It always seems super cool. And then there's this one shot at the end of the film. And I was wondering why he was doing this because he kept giving us the shot. And I was like, Tarantino, you mean something, but I don't get what you mean. And then you get to the end of the film and it's at night. And we see not an expensive car, but a busted ass car, like parked.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's first is pulling up, and then later on in that sequence, we see it like backing down the driveway. And so it's like this huge, like when you get into the third act, it was like, hey, it was all sunshiny and whatnot. It's like, bam, it's the night.
See, and I would almost dare to say that he used, the mirror technique that we sometimes employ in writing with Cox in Space.
Yeah, so that's exactly. And so like, I believe I would really like to talk to Tarantino because I believe that he's using something that's really, really similar to what I designed. It wasn't intentional if he has already reached these conclusions first, but I would like to see if he has in fact done that because the way that his story is balanced, like I said, with Django, the point of the story was almost exactly at the middle of the movie. And that's the thing that doesn't happen by accident.
He's definitely got a grasp, on the story he wants to tell and how he wants to tell it.
Yeah. So my thought was that some people might have this talent naturally. Like Tarantino might be one of those people that he understands innately how stories balance. Like some people have perfect pitch for music. Right. But most people don't seem to have that, or they have some vague inclination of it, but not to the same degree. So it might be the case that he's just doing these things that I propose are like the most naturalistic way to tell a story. And he's just doing them because that's how he believes stories should be told. I don't know. I would really like to talk to him about this idea in particular. So Tarantino, if you're out there, reach out.
Quentin, if you ever hear about a little show called Cox in Space,
well, when the show gets big enough to get your attention,
and we're fans.
Yeah, we're fans, and I have a couple questions. I just want to know, as a film nerd to a film nerd, I have some questions about some choices, etc. Anyway, so he was definitely using that mirror technique, and that's what I really appreciated about it. Is he took the time to set up something that definitely didn't make sense until it finally did make sense, and it was just a single shot. He did call it out, but it's one of these things that, like, when people be like, Tarantino movies are too long, I'll have to counter argue that he takes enough time to set up exactly what you need to know, right? So if you think it's too long, you're missing the details. Like most movies, if they're that long, they're fluffing and should be edited. But like literally, like this movie in particular has no missteps. Like it's just completely like everything you want to see and everything you need to know. So that's an example. That's just a small example of making sure that you get to see the shot every time they come in and every time they leave. And we just saw the first one. Right. It would have happened there.
Yeah, right. And he kind of frames it like the same way, where it's like the trees overarching the big gate, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. So, right. Like I said, it looks like it's a place that has a secret, right? And then again, it's from the way he filmed it, because he could have shot it in a very 70s way, which has shot it very tight, where like they're coming up.
And it's like 3/4 angle.
Yeah. and the leaves
roll
are
up into the
arching over
sea.
them. Yeah, that would be like a very like horror movie, like 70s way to kind of do it. But he did
Right.
it so that you see down the boulevard, and it's so unique. I like it's probably not like an uncommon shot, but like I it stood out, right? Like it was just like I don't think I'd seen. Maybe it's just like he doesn't normally use those shots or something like that. But yeah, I don't think I'd ever
Mhm.
seen something like that from him, especially in that way. That's all I can tell you about why it was so distinct initially. Um, yeah, so then we get to see Margot Robbie pick up a hippie. And we get to see her character and just how sweet she is. And this is a thing that like this is why like I was on the edge of my seat about this movie, even though most of the movie, like I don't know, the first hour and 45 minutes or something like that, is like really pleasant and upbeat and like so bright and sunshiny. You know, like if you like Kill
Mhm.
Bill because of the cinematography, like that's definitely what like this movie looks like too.
Yeah,
Because it has like that bright
absolutely.
feeling. But I was so worried because like here's Margot Robbie, and I know now she's Sharon Tate, and I'm like, oh my god, like no, like I
Right.
want to
It's
love
like
her, but I can't
right. It's
because
like
this is a horrible
as soon as you
Tarantino
realize
movie.
Margot Robbie is Sharon Tate, and she's just such this fucking little precious doe deer of a character, you don't want to see her get massacred.
All right, you're like, no. She picks up this hippie girl and she like, you know, who's hitchhiking on the side of the road, and she's so sweet to her, and they seem to be like catching up and being friends, even though Sharon Tate at this time is pseudo famous. She gets out of her car and she gives her like a hug, even though she's parking at valet. You know what I mean? Like it's just like
Right.
you just she said like he just sets her up to be like so sweet. Um,
Yeah, just a very human like person. I mean, like of all the people, this is one of the characters, I guess you could say characters, quote unquote, because it's based on a real person, but this is one of the characters that's been featured in Tarantino's films that doesn't have some sort of weird ulterior motive or some sort of she's just a ray of peace and sunshine throughout her entire time in the movie.
Right. Do you see why I'm saying like I believe that Tarantino was very much in love when he wrote and directed this movie?
Yes.
He was just like, I'm in love. The Margaret and Sharon Tate, they're so beautiful. You know, like I'm
Hopefully he was
good
like,
for
my
you.
wife is beautiful and my
Yeah,
wife reminds me of Sharon Tate.
right. Could
But
be. Could be. I don't know. Maybe he calls it Tatum's in the bedroom or something. I have no idea. Again, on the list of
geez.
things that I will want to ask Tarantino if he ever comes on to Flicky with Skip or any Constant Space podcast. Um, we do have availability right now for some of October, so reach out. You guys can also
Um,
do that at toxicspace.com. You know, go to our Facebook and connect with Aaron Cosbill if you're an interesting person with some interesting thoughts or things that you're interested in. You can always connect with us. So you can do that there.
Feel free to go check out Younger Morris at Instagram.com.
Yeah. That's
Um,
the place to get all the best posts.
yeah, the memes. I haven't been really doing it too much recently, but it's just another way to contact us. Honestly, I check my Instagram every day, so just another way to contact us is slide me a DM on Instagram.
Yeah, you can. Well, you can private message us on any of the socials that we exist on for sure.
Also, yes, as well.
Yeah, just private message us. You're more than welcome to. I think that's what Logan's saying is like, don't feel shy about reaching out about the thoughts,
We are people.
opinions that you have. Of course, as always, be nice to Logan because I'm the one who has to be there when he cries. And while I don't mind
I
it,
will cry.
he cries a lot, and so whatever shirt I have has to. He's like, I need to talk. Like I have to come over wearing two shirts, and then one will be like the soaked shirt, and then I'll wring that out while I'm wearing the other shirt, and then while that's drying, the first shirt gets wet, and then I have the ability to put the second shirt back on because it'll be dry, and then wring out the one that was underneath to begin with. Anyway, so that's why you should be nice to Logan, because it's just a lot of work to keep changing shirts.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot of snot and mucus involved, and you don't want to do that to Skip.
I mean, it's just for my sake is all I'm asking. Like, it's also good to be nice, but if you don't have that in you, then just think about the pain you'll be putting me through.
And I cry all the time, but if you want to make me cry, I'll do it.
Right. And it was
Anyway.
yeah, there we go. Come talk to us more. Is I think the encouragement. You are probably not weirder than us. Is the thought, because we got some
That too. Yeah.
we got all the oddballs here. It's kind of what our thing is just oddballs working on a cartoon together because it needs to be done and we're weird. So anyway, speaking of weirdos, there's a segue I was looking for. Tarantino, right? Like a weirdo of weirdos. That's why I would like to have him on this show, because I'm like, dude, you're like the king of weirdos. You want to talk about being weird?
Yeah.
Because this movie is like, this is the thing, is it's very Tarantino. Like, it's not, you can't miss his style all over it. But then he does something that kind of supersedes all of those things. Like, it just rises above becoming its own film that defies genre more than a Tarantino movie, more than like I don't know, an homage movie, like a love story. It's just, it becomes its own thing, as great art should, right? I'm glad that we took that pause there, because we have to look at something really fantastic. If you're able to stream, I hope that you'll be able to see this, because I want to talk about it. So what we saw is this really cool contrast between what we just, before the ad break, we were talking about how Margot picks up a hippie, gives her a ride, gives her a big hug, and then goes shopping. And then right after that, what we see is Tarantino. We see DiCaprio coming around a corner and complaining about these hippies. And so we get to see like this two like totally different perspectives of like this subculture. But that's just a lead up, because what I want to actually show you is this. Are you seeing the stream? Can you see that?
Yes. Now you're not drawing and I can actually see. Yes.
Cool. Is it echoing?
No.
Okay.
Not that I hear.
So this is the shot. And that was all this lead up to the shot, because one of the things I want to say about this is that this shot cost several $1 million. Easy. It's part of the huge cost of this film. Let me just play it real quick so that you can see what I'm talking about. There you go. Okay, so they are on a boulevard in LA. If you didn't see that, it's an actual. They're on location. This is a major street in not the downtown area, but it's in Hollywood. This is actually it's actually on Hollywood Boulevard. And I only know that because I've been down there, and those places are there. But one of the things you'll notice about this shot, this one in particular, right, is that everything is period.
Yes.
Right, as it should be, right? Because everything in this movie is period. So like, and then
except
you have
maybe if I can just for a second, except for maybe the traffic lights, because I don't think traffic lights look like that in the 70s.
No, those couldn't be dressed to replace.
But that's one of the things.
Minor thing.
Yeah, but that's one of the things where
minor things.
Like, no matter how much money you pay the city, they're not going to replace the traffic lights for a movie shot.
Well, it's also exactly. You look at the time of the day. The sun has just come up. They were setting up to shoot at like midnight, and they were like, "Okay, at first light, we're gonna roll." And that's basically what you see. What's happening here? It's supposed to be a different time of day, but you can't block traffic at the other times. Right. It's a very busy boulevard, full of tourists. But like, you see how many people are in this shot? Like, because this is a closed set, because they have to control it. These are all paid out.
How many cars and like there's like
how many people are driving for this shot? Time. Look at the right here, if you see like all the decorations and stuff, like all the signs for all the places. They this is why I say they set up like midnight or like the night before or whatever, and they redecorated everything here, with of course the street lamps being the one thing that they didn't. And these are probably modern signs too, like that do not block the intersection does not look like it has the same older font to it. But like, it's just like when the thing about this shot is it's so casually expensive. And that's what like I was just like blown away by because it comes up with this, right? Like this is how it intros again. I'm gonna play through it just one more time and then we can cut back to the animation. Um, because they just left this set and he just swears to the hippies, and then it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, this movie cost us a lot of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like
he's like that shot was specifically to flex, just like look how much money I can spend doing that.
I'm sorry. Speaking of flexing, that we haven't got there yet, but it's coming up.
Jeez. He just hit me with Margot with these dirty souls, bro. What the hell?
I'm sure they're stinky too, and all the things.
I'm saying you hit me with them dogs.
I'm sorry, man. It's just the next slide up. How can I not? But no, just yeah.
I apologize for my visceral reaction, but I was just, man, just a slam cut to.
Yeah, exactly right.
Wow.
Yeah, you didn't see that coming. Bam. Like yeah, the flashbang. Oh, speaking of what, yeah. So hang on. Anyway, this is kind of where he does really hammer home after this. Like this is the Manson story that that you are seeing these things.
Right.
And then you start to get this idea. There's another shot right after this where Brad speeds out of the house. I think I already mentioned it. And you see that it's also a very expensive shot because this is following shot that follows him as he merges down the highway, like moves through the car. It's basically like a Fast and Furious 6-7 shot, where it's basically showing off like how they can get the camera. But it looks like, and it might be CG, but it looks like they're doing it in live traffic. So it looks like, again, it's probably not real, but it looks like Brad's driving the whole time. So like props to everyone for doing that. It's a really well executed shot. It was kind of too long to like show you it here. So if you guys want to check it out, do that early on in the movie. This is where we find out that while he works for Dalton, and Dalton lives, in the Hollywood Hills in a very expensive house, that Cliff lives in a trailer with his well-trained dog behind a movie theater, a drive-in movie theater in Van Nuys. Which, I was kind of expecting that juxtaposition, kind of, but like just to see like that it's one room. And like he just came from this place and like consoling this dude who's crying because he's washed up. And like the stuntman who was like, yeah, I'm not working anymore. The only person I work for is you, by the way.
Yeah. And I feel like the juxtaposition of that also shows the humanity of Cliff, like the humanity of the character. Because like you never really do see Leo besides his breakdowns and like when he's crying and like smoking and, tweaking out on camera, you don't really see a human side of him. Because everything else is such like this crazy artifice that he's built as far as like his big house and like this big name that he's got for himself. And like I said, that, that kind of wraps back around to like he puts this expectation on himself. And that's why as soon as they say like, oh, spaghetti Western, I'm washed up. I'm
right. Yeah, exactly. Like like in his mind, he has to use so much more.
Wonderfully written, dude. It's awesome.
It is fairly fun for them, I think, as an actor, and then also Tarantino's writing of that character. We're going to talk about this. Might be the one sequence I'd be like, maybe it's a hair too long, but it does pay off really well in the end, where he's like he's feeding his well-trained dog. That he guarantees that if she like even cries once, he's going to throw this food away.
Right.
Which I think is hilarious. Like the dog somehow understands that. But fun times anyway. So you kind of wonder when it's happening, why it's happening. But then it proves that there's a good reason for it. At the end of this movie, the next thing that happens in the film is that they go to this big party of all the peoples of the 70s and 80s. Or I'm sorry, the 60s and 70s. We do get to see Mama Cass. They call her out by name, which is fun. And it's like this moment that just Tarantino just like he's putting all his favorite people together in his imagination, and how fun it would be to like be at the Playboy Mansion, with Sharon Tate and
Right.
Mama Cass, and I think Phil
And I
Spector
think
is.
it's also really fun that he kind of kept up with the visual gag of drawing like the white text and white arrows to certain people.
Did that happen in the film?
Yes. He did it, I think, to Roman Polanski, and I think he did it to a couple of other actresses.
Oh, okay.
Where there's like a white text bubble and an arrow that points them out specifically.
Huh. It seems like something he would do. I, for some reason, am not recalling that at all. But it doesn't. I mean, like it seems like his style. I don't know why I wouldn't have noticed that.
But like I said, but this just goes back to the conversation that we're gonna have. I mean, I guess toward the end of it, but that we've kind of prefaced where it's like this movie was a love movie. This movie was a love note not only to the period and the time, but a love note to every other movie that he's ever made.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I mean, like what he's been striving for, in my opinion, with the other films that he's done. I think he's just succeeded here. And he succeeded. Right. I mean, he's succeeded in other films and other genres with Django Unchained, with The Hateful Eight, or with Inglourious Basterds. I think he succeeded in that way. But I think this is the most Tarantino that he wanted to be, and I think that's. I mean, like the movie that he set out to make, he's made it. This is it. So he did keep pointing out specifically what the date was, because he was trying to remind us that this is set in that time period, and we are on Cielo Drive, and we are seeing Sharon Tate. She is pregnant, for instance, and we're like, oh no, the time and the place. One thing he does in the movie a couple of times is one of the things he does at this moment is where Margot Robbie is just like asleep and like pretty while she's asleep, but she's snoring. And yeah, exactly. I just thought that was such an interesting like characteristic to like throw in. And then he does the same thing with Dalton's Italian wife when they're coming back on the plane. Like she's like all like dolled up and like she's wearing like a nice outfit and whatever. And she's like she's snoring too. And I was like, when I like afterwards have realized that he got married, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you see what it's like to be involved with somebody. Like to just like they can be gorgeous and still, yeah.
It kind of conveys this message where like as beautiful as you might be, you're not flawless.
Right. Yeah. And that actually is we're almost there. It's bringing
like the nobody's perfect thing, because he depicts these beautiful women who appear, visually, I guess, to one's eye, flawless, but then they have like, but they snore like a chainsaw.
Right.
It's like, you never know, like you never know what's, like what this person actually is all about until you get involved with them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's 100%. I think that's why he pushed for the dirty soles of Margot's feet, is because he's trying to do that same thing. I mean, there's some other things going on, but like just you never know what they are, who they are. Like they might be gorgeous, but at the same time, when they walk around and wear their shoes, their feet get filthy.
Right.
They don't comfortable with the Tarantino fun times. So we see Leo going to the set, and we find out that Cliff was really hoping to get a job as a stuntman on that set. And then Leo just forgot to tell him that he can't because Kurt Russell and his thing. The Kurt Russell cameo in
also, yes, the Kurt Russell cameo was unexpected and fantastic.
Yeah, it's part of a pretty fantastic sequence. But that's the thing is that Cliff is always there for his bro, but Dalton doesn't really seem to be there for Cliff.
Right.
And then he's like, "Hey, can you take care of the thing on my roof for me?" So we get to see this next contrast. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, like during the roof scene, we also again have that juxtaposition of, you know, like, like, like Cliff is on a set, and he's on a set because Dalton is there, right?
You talking about the
And
daydream?
that's where we. It's
So
not. I thought it actually happened.
no, it is. Hang on, we're almost there.
I'm sorry.
Just one thing I'll point out that we'll get right to that. When Leo arrives on the set, we see the difference between him and the rest of the people because he shows up late. And they're already like way behind looking for him and expecting him. And then he asks directions from a guy who's clearly been there a long time, who's like dirty and sweaty, and he's pushing this heavy piece of machinery. And this actor just like comes on the set being like, "Oh, can you help me out?" You know? And
Yeah,
it's so like it's the
not
difference
even in
between
costume yet.
right, yeah. The difference between like those who work on the sets and those who like, actors who like they do work, yeah, and they're like kind of the central focus for sure. But it's like the work of the movie is not the actor's work. And again, so he was just pointing out the difference between like making movies and enjoying movies. Because I think that Dalton's a character who enjoys being in movies, but not necessarily the hard work of movies. And that's one of the things that like gets to him. Now we get to well, there's two things that happen. We missed one of them the first time a little earlier. We get to see that Cliff notices this hippie girl on the side of the road. She's the same girl who's in The Substance. And she's in something else too that she's well known for. And then here we also see as he's pulling up the house to like fix the roof, he sees her again, like hanging out, and they like kind of see each other. Something about pickles. I think they've just gotten some pickles from a dumpster. He leaps the wall and then up onto the roof to do it. Like he doesn't have a ladder. He just like runs at the wall and jumps it.
He just does it.
It's like he's just like, oh yeah, well I'm a stuntman, so I do stuntman.
Yeah, and it just I was gonna say like that just reinforces like the cool guy stuntman character.
He's just a cool guy.
I only feel like Brad Pitt could do.
For sure, like it definitely, yeah. But what you see is he's up on the roof. He takes off his shirt, right? So if you want, this is kind of like the moment that's happening. He sees Tate's car pull in. We also see the van and this Marilyn Manson, Charles Manson, pull up, like to the Tate's house. So we see that he sees it, and then he goes off into this daydream about how Dalton was actually his good buddy, and his good buddy would always stick up for him. And if his good buddy like put in a good word, that's all it would take to get him on the set, regardless of the fact that he may have killed his wife. Yeah. And you're like, wait, what? Drop that right now in the middle of this daydream? And so here's the Kurt Russell cameo. Sorry, you think some thoughts?
No, I was just agreeing with you, saying yes, drop it right there.
Yeah, right. That's where it goes. Yeah, exactly. And they don't address it at all, which is why I'm excited about something in the future with that. But the Kurt Russell cameo, he's like, all right, we're going to get you a wardrobe, be the stuntman and whatnot. And then it cuts to the scene where Brad Pitt's in a tuxedo, and we get to see. So, like, I just feel like this scene exists because Tarantino loves Bruce Lee so much. And he couldn't figure out a way to make it happen, like logistically. And so he's like, you know what, Cliff, he has a dream. He has an imagination.
I see, and what's crazy is that a lot of people online at the time interpreted that as like, oh, that Tarantino hates Bruce Lee. That was a huge you to Bruce Lee.
Well,
just a stuntman just whipped his ass.
Right. Well,
and I was like, well, come on now.
Yeah, yes and no. It's how Cliff sees himself. You gotta, I mean, like, that's why I'm like, yeah, you definitely have to support like the daydream thing because he comes out of it, right? After it's over, so it comes like, okay, so I think Bruce Lee pulls like a sneaky move on him and knocks him to the ground. And then, well, first of all, Bruce Lee starts the fight by being a jerk and then throws him to the ground. And then Cliff shows him that he could try to do that when he's ready for him. He'd never get that second punch in, and he throws him into a car. And
like ruins like a quarter panel and a door.
It's so funny. And then it's like they're kind of like they respect each other.
Toss. Like this was he did into the car, and this was in the 70s. This was not plastic.
Yeah, exactly. Like so, and so like he was charging to use his own body weight. But yeah, so then they're about to really square off because now they've got true respect for each other. The same thing as in Kill Bill, where they got one strike, they got another strike, and then they're ready to actually fight. And as they're about to actually fight, the Australian wife, who also shows up in the Hateful Eight, yeah,
as Minnie.
Yeah, no, she's the stagecoach driver.
Yeah, five horse Winnie or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's her.
Five horse Winnie.
Just why do they call you that? Anyway, so
you don't know Jenny can drive a 5-horse crew.
You don't know Jenny can drive a 5-horse.
Anyway.
So she comes out and starts like complaining, and then that's when it cuts back to Brad like looking up and being like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm just here up on a roof like doing things." But yeah, it's just I think that's what the case was. Is he was like, "How do I get Bruce Lee into this movie?" And like, I don't know why you think it was a diss. He obviously loves Bruce Lee. Like he dressed one of his characters like Bruce Lee. Like for almost a whole movie, presented that costume on the cover. Like I don't think there's a movie that Tarantino doesn't like. I think he likes anything and anyone who's on film. I don't know him personally, but it's just a guess.
I mean, like ultimately, like committing something to film. If we could talk about this for a second, committing something to film is an act of bravery. It's like this is here forever now. So like you have to believe in it. So, and I mean, especially in those days too, where you had to pay a lot of money to film something, whereas today everybody has a digital camera on their cell phone and you can film anything wherever.
Right. All the time.
Back in those days, to get something filmed, it was like you really have to believe in this, and you have to get other people who believe in this, and finance it, and
cover that expense.
Want it to happen.
100%. And it's such an interesting like difference in between the two times.
Right.
Here's the thing that happens next after he breaks out of that daydream. He does actually see the van arrive. There's supposed to be an extended scene with Manson, who they introduce here. Like Manson comes up to the house and asks about the thing. This is a famous situation, which apparently did happen, where he like scoped out the place beforehand. Because someone else had
and I was actually going to mention that there was someone in the credits who was like announced as cut. They said it was like a cut piece of film, but someone did appear in the film.
So Tim Roth was announced. Tim Roth was announced as being in the film, but being cut. But there's I know that there's more scenes, which is crazy to think that movie could have been 3 hours or more. Because I think he really does. I mean, apparently he does cut a lot back too. But there's a whole there's supposed to be scenes on the Manson ranch. Or the ranch that the Manson family is hanging out on.
See, like, and that was what I was expecting, like more of a build up toward like that aspect of it. And as much as it is, I guess, addressed, I feel like it's not super apparent to someone who doesn't know. I mean, God forbid you don't know who Charlie Manson is, but I mean, to someone who doesn't know who Charlie Manson is, these are just some dudes who just pull up.
Yeah, and so I agree with you to a certain extent. I think that he wants to play horror with people who know too much, is my opinion for this film. That if you are into true crime and you do know the details, like I was like, oh, Cielo Drive, oh crap, this
right.
60s. I was like, oh, this is Sharon Tate's story. Knowing that stuff gave me a sense of dread.
Yeah. And I was going to just say, like anyone who knows anything about true crime and, and once again, like if that is your thing, you know who Charlie Manson is.
Well, and this is
So
what I
as
say. I
soon as
think,
he, like as soon as Sharon Tate gets mentioned, you're like, oh shit,
yeah,
like I recognize that name.
but he's only doing that to play with expectations, right? Like, and
Right.
spoilers, okay? Because what he does, we're gonna get to the ending when we get to the ending. But what he does is he makes you love Margot. He makes you like feel this like hope, and then this sense of dread, knowing that everything is going to be taken away, right? Um, and that's one of the things that's really masterful, in my opinion, about this movie, is because the story, the thing that's affecting us is not the story itself, but our knowledge of events outside of the story, which I think is a really, really interesting way to do a movie. I hope someone plays some movies down in the comments that kind of like do that same thing, because I'm not sure I've
Yeah.
seen that before. Um, we get. Did I mention that Manson has blacked out eyes? So he was supposed to. This is where I got off on the extended scene. And the extended scene, he's supposed to have like we get to see that he's actually like the leader of these people. And he's like big, like creepy dude or something.
Yeah,
But
you
like
actually get to see that he's like a big evil type of character.
I guess, but like one of the interesting choices, the only thing I noticed from what we see of him in the movie is that his eyes are like, like one of those blacked out kids with blacked out eyes. Like it's just
What do
there
you mean,
is
like,
no there's no iris. It's all just like looks like just a pupil.
so he's like
Yeah,
wearing like contacts or something, or he's got like eye
yeah,
drops in where like it makes
yeah.
his whole shit.
The next time you watch it, look at Manson's eyes. Is that they're completely blacked out. And
No,
it's
do we see Charlie Manson in the movie?
Yeah, yeah. Right after he takes off his shirt, he has the daydream. We see the black van pull up, and then we see Charles Manson, and it cuts to outside the Tate Polanski residence, and he comes up asking for the people who used to live there. And so like it's a close enough resemblance. He's got like that mop top, like split down the middle haircut, the brown beard, and then of course ominous music, which he's messing with us, and then the blacked out eyes. Um,
Yeah.
so we see that Cliff knows about that visitation. Um, anyway, there's a thing that's about to happen. We're about to hit this really cool moment. Oh, geez, we've already got like 90 minutes and we haven't even hit the central sequence yet. All right, so
Tarantino part 4 coming soon.
no, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. It might be a 3 hour bit. I thought it was gonna be a 90-minute bit, but I love this movie so much. There's so many little things to talk about.
Right.
So we're the thing that closes off the first act, or the combination of like the first and second like movements, is that we're finally on set. Leo's been in costume. He's told that he can't eat because the mustache still has to set up because he was running late. And so he goes to get drunk instead, get a little liquor in him, and he runs into the girl that he's going to be acting with. And she gives him a lesson in acting, like how she's like all method and all this sort of stuff. And it's just,
I thought that was a beautiful sequence.
yeah, 100%. He tells the story of Easy Breezy. And this is interesting. This is the difference between later Tarantino and monologues Tarantino. Tarantino, right? So he does this thing. This
Dude, like you can't have a 12-year-old deliver a Coke monologue. Come on.
well,
now.
he doesn't. He has he sits. He goes and sits next to the girl after she catches him drinking, and he pulls out his book that he's going to read it, and she asks what it's about, and then so he starts to deliver this long narrative about Easy Breezy, about this buck rider who got hurt and could no longer do the sort of work that he used to do before, and then he starts crying, and he's just like, because it's him. It's obviously he's telling the story of him. He did this in another movie too, but it's just like it's so beautiful to see again this difference between when we started this series with my best friend's birthday, and it opens with this Tarantino Coke monologue, and then we started to see like in this later work where we see like him delivering story. Oh, you know who it was?
Right.
There's in Django Unchained, when Christopher Waltz is telling the story about Brunhilde, the most beautiful woman in the world. And again, it's essentially the same thing as a monologue, but it's a grown-up Tarantino explaining these long thoughts that he has in this way. And so it's so nice to see him do this in his later career. And again, this is another example of him like telling the story about this broken cowboy and actually being a metaphor for our guy who's a cowboy actor.
Yeah.
There is a weird moment where the girl then comforts the crying Leo, which just hammers home the fact that he's a big baby and needs to be coddled. That even a child is more mature than Dalton is, which I think is fun and really interesting, especially about what we're about to expose in the central sequence. So buckle up, buckaroos, because this is where it gets real in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. How you doing, Logan? We reached the central sequence, which is like just the first 45 minutes of the movie, which we did in an hour and 90 minutes plus commercial break.
Good God.
I know, right? Really, I told you I love this movie so much. Like, I was not a fan of Tarantino, and I've come around to be like a raving fan.
Our podcast. If you want to, we can do it.
Well, I think we might have to, but also we still have a ways to go. So
right,
we're not playing no games. It is nice that I'm able to get a lot of work done while we're doing this. So thank you for hanging out, doing that large. We're doing it.
Absolutely.
Because we're getting, panel by panel closer. So we find out again that Sharon Tate's just a really cool cat. Because she gave a ride to a hippie, which we find out are not very popular, contrary to our popular opinion now. And that she even hugs them. And then she walks by a movie theater on her way to shopping, and she sees herself on the poster, her name on the poster, and she smiles. And we just get like this, she's just so sweet and so like, what a ray of sunshine. And so it's just like, you just love her, and then you also like they're definitely setting up like this is Sharon Tate, by the way. We also get to see in this sequence, we get to see Leonardo DiCaprio in the Great Escape sequence, where Tarantino cuts him into actual footage of the Great Escape, and stuff like he's just doing the 70s film, but like DiCaprio is like shot for shot, playing whoever the guy is. I forget who the actual actor who was famous for the time. And so again, he's just foreshadowing this revisionist history, because it wasn't Richard Dalton who was cast in that movie as that character. Right. It was somebody else. And so I think he's kind of like making it what he wants it to be. So anyway, they do that just to pass some time, because then a really cute sequence comes along where Sharon's trying to get into the movie, but she doesn't think she should have to pay for it because she's in the movie. But the people who are like running the ticket booth don't believe her, and they have to get the manager involved to see if she's like famous enough to go see herself in this movie. Do you remember this? Is this like standing out as a moment?
Yes.
And then also like they're like, oh, I want to take your picture because obviously now she's famous. They recognize that she's famous, but she's like, can you stand next to the poster of yourself so that people will know who you are? So we just recognize that Sharon Tate now to us is famous because of her unfortunate demise. But like then like Tarantino's pointing out that like she was like kind of known. Like you see in the movie that she's like in it, but like she's just like the zany side character.
That was like her second film or something.
So she had she had potential, right? But she hadn't like really made it, and the only reason we know her again is because of history. And it's so like it's so interesting, right? We see her then go through this kind of transformation because when she gets in the theater, she like relaxes a little bit. She obviously takes off her shoes, but then she puts on some glasses, which I thought was really interesting. It's almost a shot of her letting down her hair. And I flashbanged with it before, so I'm going to warn you a little bit about it now. But there you go. It's one of these shots. But like this is one of the things. Like even if you don't want to necessarily be like, oh, feet. We know Tarantino. You got the whole feet thing going on. But we were talking about like how the dirtiness of the feet he wanted and needed. But like I think that it's more of this like that's how women's feet are. If you come in contact with them, they're going to be like that. But it's the look on her face, especially all through this entire sequence. Like when we see her in the theater, she is delighted. Sharon Tate doesn't have, or Margot Robbie doesn't have a lot of lines in this movie. She's not a real central character as much as you think she might be. But she does a lot of really hard acting, especially in this scene. Because she doesn't say anything, but there's just like when she hears people laughing, she like, you could see her like internalizing it. And you don't have to, no one's going to argue with me that Margot Robbie is a fantastic actress, but I think it's more subtle and less over the top like it normally is. Also, well, let's.
I mean, honestly, I think she did it well. Sorry.
Then let's move on from the feet. They kind of stare me in the face. Oh, sorry. That's all.
Yeah, about to say the souls are just like there.
You can see that girl's got a lot of soul. When Tarantino says it hits it right. So she's great. So this is the thing about the central sequence is he's starting to set up the big like problems as they're moving towards each other. And one of them is just the turning up the cuteness of Sharon Tate as high as it will possibly go. And the other one is introducing the Manson family and like who they are. Because this is where he does finally meet the hippie girl. Now, that's just to leap ahead. One of the things I want to point out here is that right as this whole thing is happening in the central sequence is when Dalton is on set filming that movie. And it's so interesting because we get to see Tarantino filming like an actual Western now. And this is where you get to see him doing two period pieces at the same time. The central sequence is, to me, very, very intriguing for that because you're watching a 70s period piece and you're watching a totally different, like 1800s period piece that DiCaprio is starring in, where he's playing a different character than we've seen in the whole rest of the movie. And so he goes from being the neurotic mess to being this big bad who's gonna get you guys, you know.
That's the most fun part of the whole film, I think.
I agree. It's definitely
Leo's character.
Yeah, like he just, it's really fantastic. Yeah, I mean, just like to see the depth that he can play. And that, you know, like when he started out, again, we see him crying, and then the next sequence we see him being this big bad. There is something that I wanted to ask you about, and I don't know if you saw this, that if it stuck out to you. But in the Western, the first time that we see Leo, it's like at a saloon, right? And at that saloon, there's a negotiation inside about where the dude comes from, I think, or something like that, or like who the brother is. It's like a disjointed scene related to nothing that we know about. That's not the important part. There's like a Hispanic guy who's like yelling back inside. Are you recalling this scene at all?
I believe, yes.
Okay, so at the end of that sequence, what we see is DiCaprio's character, whose name I have no idea in the movie that he's making. I'm sure it's something cool because Tarantino is probably making some reference that I'm not privy to. But he comes out of the saloon and he's eating chicken. And then for some reason, I thought of the joke that he's a man, like step right up, you know, to like a sideshow. See a man eating chicken. And the idea, of course, is that, it's a chicken large enough to eat a man, but in reality, it's a man who is consuming chicken. But then I was thinking about, yeah, and there's no reason for him to be eating chicken. There's absolutely no reason. And maybe it's a reference to the movie that he's supposed to be filming, that the man is eating chicken in that scene, and it makes sense to the rest of the character. I'm not sure about that part. So this might be a completely different tangent. But I was thinking about Dalton as a character and how he is actually a man-eating chicken. Like, he's this big coward who consumes, like, Cliff's life, for instance, right? And like, he's just like, he could, use up people if he wants to. He's a big bruiser, but also like a coward. Anyway. So any thoughts? Do you think that's deeper symbolism? Have I looked too deeply into the Tarantino abyss?
No. Absolutely not. We've discussed it before. Tarantino is an auteur.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking.
There's definitely some nuance to whatever he decides to film.
Yeah, that's my guess. Yeah, it might be that. Yeah, there's nuance. It's a question for Tarantino. Like, what do you mean? And maybe somebody does know why Leo is eating chicken in that scene and can answer in the comments below. I'm gonna go with that. I think that he's trying to use the symbolism that he's a man eating chicken. And the thing about the Western that they're making, though, is just I want to see Leo do that movie. Now I know that it's kind of like a play on Django Unchained. Now going back and seeing Django Unchained, so it's kind of that Calvin character,
right?
But also, like, I would like to see this like bad Leo like gun Western. Wow, all those words, they go together, but not in that order.
Yeah, that was that was a sentence, I guess.
It has the words in it. So yeah, like I just, when he transforms in the middle of this movie, I was just like, okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely want to see this actor do more movies, not realizing that it's Leo playing a character.
Right.
It tricked my brain. And it's really, it's fun that it does that. And one of the reasons it's fun that it does that is because at the end of the sequence, when they switch back to not being the actors anymore, then you believe that the actors that you've been watching this whole time are real. It's subtle. It's really, because your brain's like, oh yeah, now that they're offset, this is their real life.
Right.
So you're not like Leonardo DiCaprio. It's like, Dalton and his good buddy Cliff have had quite a day. One thing I noticed in this movie as they're making the Western, that I noticed about like a lot of Tarantino movies that we didn't really call out in the whole series, is how he likes to have people speak Spanish. Like, he just wants to make sure that Spanish is in the movies and people are like casually like throwing it around. And then the villain and the good guy both like casually speak Spanish to each other.
Mm-hmm. Very Tombstone like,
Yeah, I mean, it's like authentic to the West too, because there was a chance that was going to be the language because of where they were.
Well, no. Have you ever seen Tombstone?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a shout out to where like these two gentlemen have a conversation amongst themselves in Latin, where no one else, like no one else around the card table understands what they're saying, but they do.
Okay, that is an interesting.
It's like kind of like that, and I feel like he did that in Kill Bill too.
Well, he does actually. I noticed in most of his movies, he has people casually speaking Spanish. And I think it's, again, this thing where like I hadn't recognized about him is that I think he really does love all cultures, or like he has a lot of appreciation for cultures and different cultures. He loves music from different cultures. He loves movies from different cultures. So I would go on to imagine he probably loves like languages too. And he has a soft spot for Spanish. And so, like From Dusk Till Dawn is like it has, if I remember correctly, a bunch of Spanish in it as the dialogue. Or did I see that on Telemundo? It's a possibility that was one of the times that happened. Y'all should check it out because it is a good. Okay, hang on.
You know how fucking funny that was?
Do you want to know the kicker of that story though? Because I think it is actually. So one of the reasons.
Hold on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh fuck. Was there a lot of Spanish in that movie, or did I just see it on Telemundo?
It could have been Telemundo, bro.
Sorry. Oh man. Oh, Skip, I'm dying. That was hilarious. Oh my god. That was just the right moment. I don't know what got me, but man. I'm sorry.
We did already briefly talk about this moment where Leo has a meltdown about forgetting his lines. There's a camera reset, but it's really fun because the sequence plays out like a movie up to the camera reset, and then it breaks. And so you get to see the camera reset in the same cinematographic quality as a movie, which is, it was definitely, it's doctor film. It's intentionally done to do that. You have to edit it to make it look like that.
Right.
But it's just fun that, again, Tarantino's doing this thing in this movie. It's like he's like the difference between making movies and enjoying movies. Because during this sequence, remember, Sharon is in the movie theater watching herself on screen at the same time that Leo is making these movies and messing up. So he's like showing this very clear juxtaposition between the two of them. And it also sets up for what the premise is like, because the idea I think that he's trying to say with the whole revisionist history and the whole twist end of this movie is that there's a difference between enjoying a movie and making a movie. And I think that's the reason that the movie ends the way that it does, is because I think that he I don't know if he fell in love with Margot or if he fell in love with the idea of Sharon or something like that, but he just he started to be no, I want it to be how it should be. Versus, because I don't think he wanted to go through the experience of making the movie of killing Margot. Again, spoilers, but this sequence, once I think he also even just falls in love with the idea of her, the perfect world, or whatever that is, and he's again very much in love right now.
Right. But he's as he's writing, it's almost as he's writing her role, he's what if that doesn't happen?
Right. Yeah. I think and that's kind of what it feels like. He started out to write a Manson movie, and then as he was moving along and he was discovering Sharon Tate as a character, he started to be but I don't want to make that movie. And which is, if that's the case, right? If that's what he's saying with this movie, and that's kind of what the statement's been, it'd be really interesting because that's we're talking how he's transitioned from violence, and how this movie represents kind of who he is. I think it's mentioned in one of my comments as he's sort of become a grandpa. He's in his later years, and he's older men turn their swords into plowshares or something like that, where they're it's time to build up instead of tear down.
Right.
And that's where I feel he's at. And it's so I think that's why the movie goes the direction that it is. It's very opposite of Inglourious Basterds, right? Inglourious Basterds ends with a fire where the actors are actually in danger. It's so hot that they're afraid that they're going to not get out in time. I think they melt the camera in that scene.
That's out of the film, man. That's the end climax.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, it's that's the end climax. That'd be a good way to put it. Yeah, it's where the culmination has come, and then everything kind of declines from there.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, so how it's so different in that way.
Right.
if we want to skirt around the S word, this is the exact statement that Leo says when he gets his lines wrong. He says, "If you don't get these lines right, I'm going to blow your brains all over the pool," which I think is hilarious because we've seen previously him floating the pool with the tape recorder and like saying his lines along with the tape recorder.
Right.
So he has a very specific place in mind, which is also where the movie kind of ends, ish, where the action of the movie ends, I suppose, is in that same pool. But it's not his death, of course. And I have some thoughts about that. Man, we need to keep moving so we can get there.
Yeah, I'm about to say, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So here is something that I want to take a kind of a quick like detour from. Again, if you're not tuned into the stream, I'll pull this up for you. Because this sequence this is the sequence I've wanted to talk about for like a week. So are you looking, are you down?
I'm here.
And by week, I mean like 2 weeks. Ever since I saw this movie, I started thinking, all right, ready? And we're rolling.
Right.
This is the hippie girl, of course.
Yeah. How are those pickles? Now, thankfully on the stream, I can't hear it, but thankfully so, because we might get copyright strike.
Yeah. We might be able to get away. Did you see the ass shot? Double ass shot.
Yes. Ass shot.
An extended ass shot. There's no reason for her to be doing this thing, like leaning into the car like this, except for that shot.
Right. That and to like put her in the context for this scene where it looks like she's in the passenger seat.
Triple eyes shot. Quadruple eyes shot. Quintuple eyes shot. Sextuple eyes shot.
We are just viewing this young lady's buttocks.
Septuple ass shot.
Jesus.
Octuple ass shot. Okay, 8 times cut back to her ass, and then also lingered.
Yeah.
Right after that, we see this.
Isn't it ass and toes with like the same fire?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, like it's within the same clip. She's just taking her shoes off, trying to be all cool about it. Obviously, we see him driving. Look at this expensive shot that's happening around them casually. Feet pressed up against the glass.
Wow.
2 shots from a different angle. You have to intentionally do this. You can't accidentally get that shot like that.
See, no, like
and then look, it cuts back and forth. That's what
I was gonna say. Like, if you want to pause the shot right here,
yeah,
and if you just look at the rule of thirds, you have Brad Pitt and his face in 1/3 of the camera.
Yeah, holding back. Yeah.
The middle third is void,
right, to create this balance. Yeah,
and then the third is feet and toes.
Yeah. Watch, we're gonna flip to the other shot because it's basically the same.
It's so like, you know,
look at this. So he does the inverse shot.
He's doing this on purpose.
He's definitely doing it on purpose. Look, so rule of thirds again. Look, where's in the void? It's her face and her toes. They take up that void section. So it cuts to void.
It's just the primary third is just her smush toes.
Yeah. So she's like crammed in there. So we're noticing this. And it's so blatant. It's really, really funny. Check this out.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's like it's lingering toe shot. It goes on. You know? At this point, I was like, "Are we watching his his spanking banking?" Because that's what it seems like. He's got some like footage. Again,
there's lots of toes in this movie, man. Yeah,
it's definitely extended because again, this is an essential sequence that has Margot's toes in it too. This is what I wanted to call attention to.
The
Yeah. So this is a question that he asks. How old are you?
Yeah.
And then look at her face and
Yeah.
expression.
Wow, man, not super chill of you.
Yeah, right.
Like
But what does she say? No one's asked me that for a really long time. Now, my argument is that Tarantino is a master of his craft. That he is, like you've been saying, an auteur to completely control every aspect of the film to make sure it says exactly what he wants. And this is him saying this. Look, you looked at the ass of this girl multiple times. You looked. I gave you the opportunity and you looked. Then I put my toes up. Yeah, and then I put my toes up. I had her put her toes up on the glass for me, and you laughed at me. And then he goes and he turns and he goes, "At least I'm not a pal." Because if you remember, his early career is with the Weinstein brothers. So you remember that clip that you sent me where where Brad Pitt is joking about this role in this movie when they get the award, and he says that I want to call out my co-stars, Margot Robbie's feet, so and so's feet, her feet, obviously. And then he says he's separated more women from their shoes than the TSA, and it cuts to Tarantino, which is a good bit. It cuts to Tarantino, and you see this deep look. It's interesting. So it's like anger, but it's like tied with like this shame too. It was just interesting. So I've been thinking about it more, especially in the light of this statement, is because he's trying to point something out. Because he's like, yeah, you might laugh at me because I like feet, but I've never touched a kid. So like again, like I think because he was connected with them, I think he knows some things. I think he knows, and he's obviously he's a celebrity. I think he knows some people. Because he was connected with the Weinsteins. And so like it's interesting to me that people have been shaming him for this feet kink for years, but he's been knowing that in the background, and he never said anything. And so like I think and he can't, right? Because if he does, he doesn't get to make any of these movies. Now I'm not justifying it, but like I understand why Tarantino would be like, take the abuse and not say anything about it, and not say anything about the other people around him. But I think in this movie he is. That's my ultra thesis for this podcast. If you've gotten this far and found out the ultra thesis, congratulations, because it only took us 2 hours to get there. Almost as long as a Tarantino movie, and it's only going to take us 41 minutes to get back out. So instead of watching that movie, you could listen to us talk about it the whole time. That's me too. Animation spells for a podcast. Like I'm never going to complain about Tarantino being long again if this one matches the same time frame, is all I'm saying. So yeah, I was definitely, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was just like, oh dang, did he just like make this statement that I think he made? Because he is definitely saying like, like everyone loves the young hippie girl in Hollywood. Is the lines that she's saying. Then if you think about like the love story that he's talking about, like working in Hollywood, and again, the people that he's around and what he knows about, like even if he didn't participate in it, like at the meetings, like he might be the weird dude who likes feet, but like he knows some stuff. And so again, like I think that's what she's like representing, and what he like hopes better. I'm hoping for the future. Again, I don't know. Maybe it's a whole smoke and mirrors thing, but Tarantino, to me, from his content, seems super wholesome, even if he is a weird guy, which is not what I was expecting from the ultraviolet movies of his early career.
Yeah. And I mean, like, when you kind of look into like what he's doing with the earlier movies of his career, like I had to, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess kind of not related, but had an ex in high school who just hated the Kill Bill movies.
Wow.
And I was like, why?
Kill Bill 2, I can understand.
Why don't you understand? They're like a satirical love, like love note to the silly ass malfunctioning blood, like blood props the 70s samurai movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're a great time.
That's the reason. I mean, when we went through the Kill Bills, like that's why we laughed just through all the fights. They're fantastic for that. Like it is.
Yeah.
He's paying an homage. That like gore can be, but like yeah, he's a big nerd with a big heart who really does love culture and loves film and forms of media from all parts of the world. He keeps his kids really private. And he actually is talking about he's going to stop doing films for a while because of that in a recent interview as of February.
Oh, wow.
So that he can spend time with his kids because right this year they're 2.5 and 5. And so
that's the time for sure.
Yeah, before that he was talking about
be there as a father
for real. And that's why I feel like he's in his like grandpa phase. I feel like this is like a good movie for him to like, even if he's just taking a break for a little while the kids are growing up. Although I think he's going to be in his 70s, so it might be more exhausting to do more films. But like
in his 70s, bro, he's peepaw to his own kids. What the fuck?
Yeah, if I remember right, but his wife is actually, she was born a year after me, so she's in her 40s. Before me, rather, she's in her 40s. And then yeah, I believe that he's older because I mean he's in his 20s in the 80s. So when the first movie comes out, or yeah, something like that. So he is like he's at least 20 years older than her. But they met when they're older, from what I understand. It wasn't like it's been an ongoing relationship for years or anything like that, from what I understand. So if you thought that I was off base with that whole, like, is he making a commentary about what he might know in Hollywood? Right after that all goes down, where she's like, let me see some ID. And then she's like, oh no, like whatever. It cuts to Leo working with that kid actress. And so like, again, just like the two images together, like just seems to be like Tarantino making a statement. Like just a visual statement, the same as like those road shots I was talking about, where it just shows the secret entrance. How we see it like later. I think he's
a statement about how like you shouldn't do this, but adults work with children all the time in movies is like the surface level thing that you see.
Yeah, and how like I think he's pointing out that like he's trying to draw like a visual metaphor. Right, like he's talking about the whole like hippie girl who's making it Hollywood. She's being exploited on the screen. He's allowing us to exploit her visually. She's putting her feet up on the glass, so we laugh at him. And then it cuts to this girl, and you're like, I think it's like really to drive the point home, which is masterful because it also plays into the scene because it's Leo holding this girl at bay. But then it's interesting because the whole scene is about how Leo like lets go. And so he's following the script, but also like the character is living through him. So he's improvising. And the girl wasn't expected to be thrown to the ground, but she like is already prepared for it because she's a method actress.
Right.
So like, again, it's like how I think he just like ties it into like how like kids are treated as adults in the film industry. And then if you like tie it into the flow of thought that like, Tate's having her feet exploited while the people making the movies are enjoying it. This girl is being like looked at while we're looking at the feet, and then the girl is being used on set as like a prop, basically. It has like this. This is what I think about this whole central sequence, where like he's I think he's because it's a love story, right? And like he whitewashes the end, or he like sugarcoats the end. Again, spoilers. But like. He's like getting to this thing. I think he wants the film industry to be better. And that might be a far reach and not his opinion, but that's what it seems like the film is saying, that we should be better to the people who are making those films.
Yeah. I could agree.
And then Cliff arrives at the ranch. There's a big like wind up when they first walk in. It's like a ghost town. There's nobody there at all. It's no one speaking. I only point this out because it's key later. And they keep insisting that this one character, the owner of the ranch, is taking a nap and cannot be bothered right now. Because if he doesn't take his nap, he's not allowed to. Well, he can't stay up and watch the show that Dalton is on, and it makes the girl Pinky, who's played by Dakota Fanning, very unhappy. And so it sounds like this far-fetched tale that like maybe Bruce Dern's character is in trouble. And the way that the whole scene plays out from that point forward, like the music and everything. The girl's name is Squeaky, and then he's moving through the house, and you hear like mice squeaking. And there's like there's the music as he's like going to his back bedroom, calling out his friend's names, like Don, Don. He's like, it's like this like low bass, is rumbling. So, and it turns out he's fine. He gets to the back bedroom and there's no problem. Everything that they told him was true. There was no problem that he was letting the hippies live there. He's very much in love with Squeaky, even though there's a huge age difference between the two of them.
But he is blind.
And he's also blind, but it doesn't make a difference to him. He's not being exploited. He's not drugged. Squeaky describes the show to him. And everything's fine. It's old man is in love. Again, this is foreshadowing to the conclusion. How it's
Right.
different. How like everything seems to be rotten, and you don't really get that at that time when you're watching it. But when you do get to it, like you're like, oh, this didn't just come out of nowhere. This is not a Shyamalan and Ding Dong twist. Where it's just like, he's been an Egyptian the whole time. Something I don't know, man.
He's been an Egyptian the whole time. It's a deep cut.
It's a deep cut. But like it's just it's just well grounded. Like it's already been set up. Like Tarantino's been feeding us the pieces, and this interaction, while long, shows that it's like I said, a shaggy dog. It's gonna continue to be a shaggy dog. He's willing to take the time to lead us into that state of suspense so he can fool us and prove that everything is okay. And I like it. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing that my grandpa used to do, where he would tease us, like making us think that there was big trouble that had just happened. And then by saving us from it, we got this like thrill out of that. And so it's kind of the same with this movie, is that like he's like kind of, he knows that he can scare us, and so he does, and we enjoy being scared. Because again, this is in the central sequence where we're seeing Sharon Tate being so cute, and like we're falling in love with her as a person, right? So,
Right.
like, and you're like, and then we're seeing the Manson family, and then we're like, oh no, but I can't, I have this sense of dread. It's got to go somewhere. You can't believe that it's gonna be good. Anyway, there we go from there. That's kind of the end of it. The end of it is he is running out of the house, and everybody is outside yelling at him. And again, it's just the perfect balance to the beginning of this scene. When you said it kind of writes like in a mirrored structure as well, 100%.
Right.
Yeah, because no one was there when they strolled in, and everybody is there, and it's like so loud. And the dude has decided to flat his tires, and so he punches him in the face.
He gives him a three.
Yeah, until he's convinced him to change the lug on his tires, because he can't obviously do it because there's like a mob trying to kill him, so he has to get the dude to do it.
Right.
But being awesome, which is why I'm looking forward to a possible sequel, a spin-off sequel. It's written by Tarantino, but directed by Fincher.
As long as Tarantino had something to do with the character that he wrote, I will watch this movie.
Yeah, it'd be really, really fun. Brad does escape, and then Margot in the final sequence comes out of the theater. The sun's setting, and she's smiling. When the end of the central sequence happens, it kind of has this feeling like there's this tonal shift. and I wrote in my notes the terrible conclusion, and I noted that there's about 48 minutes left, and so it's like his like third act, like ceiling. It starts with this amazing cover. One of the things we haven't talked about much in this episode is like Tarantino's use of music. And this is one of those moments that he uses it really well because it's this really slow cover of California Dreaming.
Yes, I do remember this.
Yeah, and you made the right sound, right? It's super tasty. It's like it's a very like sultry like lick of it. So just
I mean, me personally, I'm partial to Eddie Hazel's rendition, which is slower anyway. But that one had something to it.
Yeah,
just something that fit.
Yeah, it definitely for the style. I think it's a stylistic one. Because it fits like what the movie feels like at that time, and then for some reason the lyrics are exactly like it doesn't need to be rewritten lyrically. They're just it's what we know it to be. Because this is where we see the sun setting, and it's also as the sun setting is when the dark things come out. The whole rest of the movie has been super sunny. And we've been seeing like, this like hopeful sort of thing. But then we know that like he just had the run in with the Manson family. And they because of the hippie knows where he lives. Where Dalton lives. We get to see this return from the bad guy that we've been seeing Dalton play on camera to the actor Dalton just being an absolute mess. Which again, like we talked about this earlier, but man, just when he comes back from that, you're just like, first of all, like you're like, wow, Dalton's a great actor, and you have to be like, no, Leo is a very good actor to have played such wildly different characters like that. So again, shout out to our boy.
Absolutely.
And it's just a nice return to see because first act he's that character, doesn't know what to do with himself. Third act he's back to being that character, but doesn't stay that way, right? Because they've decided what's been happening. Oh, he introduces the acid cigarette, which pays off later. We get to see that he's a heavy, and then basically what happens is that. It fast forwards where we see Richard doing his time in Italy. So the thing he talked about with Pacino actually comes to happen in the movie. This is one of the things that I really like about Tarantino's movies that I called out earlier is that they're all jam-packed full of stuff. Like Django Unchained, I think in the hands of an unskilled writer, they would have had just the pursuing of the guys that Django knew about. That would have been the entire movie. But Tarantino made that the first part of the movie. And then he made that like the starting point that led to the rest of the adventure. And so that's where I feel like Tarantino is really a masterful storyteller is that like he makes these sort of things happen, like introducing Dalton, seeing Dalton why he's a movie star, and then returning to Dalton is really great. But then also you get this. We saw how the space of one day, and then Dalton comes back from Italy in like 6 months. We see like basically the movies he does, and it's just like bam, 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 like some stylistic pieces. A narrator comes in who was only introduced earlier in the movie once when he introduced like Dalton was a drunk driver, which I think he's like this is when he's introducing like unfacts. Like we're supposed to believe in movie world that that's true, but if you know anything about the real world, like Dalton actually isn't a drunk, I think is what he's trying to point out. And that, what we're about to witness in the third act isn't happening. So when he comes back from Italy is when he has to fire Cliff because of his new wife. It's just too expensive is what he says. Right. Which, really cool third act, right? Because they were buddies beyond all buddies.
Right. Yeah.
But they decided to have one last night together, one last drunken night together. It turns out it's the most epic night that they've ever had. And this is right. Like this is where you didn't really expect this movie You didn't expect the hangover at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right.
Because that's essentially what happens for this last bit. Now, while this is happening, though, you see the Manson family getting closer and closer. They're creeping up the street. And the blue, like as Cliff goes to take the dog for a walk. They're having one last hurrah together. One of the lines that Tarantino has one of the characters say in a voiceover. Oh, I think it's the narrator actually. He says, "When you reach the end of the line together with a buddy, getting blind drunk is the only way to say farewell."
Right.
And so that's just what they do. Then you also see like setting up Sharon Tate, getting sorry.
No, I was just gonna say one good visual bit that you see. I believe it's in the scene where he like him and his Italian wife come home, and him and Leo and Cliff are walking through the house, or Richard and Cliff are walking through the house, and just for a short time you see a poster for a spaghetti western that was directed by Antonio Margheriti, which is one of the fake names that they used in Inglourious Basterds.
I gotcha. That's
so
awesome.
it was a super fun little thing for me to notice, because I was like, haha, Antonio Margheriti.
He's the film director that he went to go work for. I think that's
Antonio Margheriti ends up being one of the directors that Richard Dalton works for.
That's one of the most I wanted to point out too, is that even though Cliff got fired, he was still carrying their bags in, and I think the poster that he's carrying in, I'm guessing is the one that you're talking about, for the director.
I thought it was on the wall, but I'm not super sure.
I think it ends up on the wall. I'm not sure either. It's very large, but it's right when they come back, but again, it's just like how it's his buddy story. So it started with them being buddies and how he's carrying the load for him, and even when he's like he's not going to be working together anymore.
Right.
he's carrying the load for him.
Helping.
Yeah. He really goes ham on pointing out the Manson family car is really disgusting and busted. We see it coming up the street. And the paint job on it is all rusted, and you get this really like extreme close up. You can tell he's like super excited about the paint job on his car, because he just spent a fair amount of the sequence on it. And then the funniest thing happens, because they've already been drinking at El Coyote, or whatever the place that they were. I think Sharon's at El Coyote, but then he's made margaritas. Dalton's made margaritas. And they come up and they have this loud muffler, the Manson family, who's up there, to do their business. And he comes out and starts yelling at them. And once he's finished yelling at them, he's drinking out of the pitcher, like of margaritas that he's just made.
Yeah.
Saying that they're a public nuisance.
It's not even like a pitcher; it's the top of the blender.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. On it. It's just he just blended it. He's drinking out of the blender.
Proper pitcher. He took the top of the blender off and went out there like, what the hell?
And then you see that the reason that he drinks is because when he drinks, he becomes that heavy. Because he's playing the character that you saw him playing as a cowboy earlier, but he's now doing it in real life. But he's only doing it, and we haven't really seen him like wasted, but this is the first time in the movie we've seen him wasted. So I think it's just really cool. Tarantino, right? Like just putting layers upon layers of the character, because earlier, like on the other side, right before we hit the mirror, or the central piece, we saw him in costume as the cowboy, but as Dalton, like he was crying in the cowboy costume. And now we see him, I think he's in a bathrobe or something, and he's like,
but he's like but he's margaritas in his face, being like,
but he's being that badass cowboy. Yeah. So again, like Tarantino wrote the levels, and DiCaprio played those levels, and bravo to both of them, because it's really worth noting and celebrating, in my opinion.
Just great stuff.
And the funny thing, right? Of course, the irony is he's yelling at people who have a muffler problem, which most people would probably not be bothered about. But he's of course drunkenly yelling in the street at like 2 a.m., which most people would have a problem with. So he's actually the nuisance, and absolutely not in the right at all when he's doing this. So high level of irony, and I think intentional, of course, on Tarantino's part. Um, the shot that I was talking about where it finally comes out of the drive the same way. It's right in this sequence right after he yells at them. You see this reverse shot. Everyone's been coming out frontwards in the sunshine. They've been zooming out, and this car comes out shakily, like making that loud muffler sound. It's all busted and smoking. Um, there is. You said there was some weak casting, right? In Django Unchained, and
Right.
I was like, yeah, I couldn't really think of anything. I didn't want to call out this next one because it's not as essential as the main character. But the girls who are supposed to be the Manson family feel like there's someone's teenage friends or something. Like some friend is like, cast my daughters, and he's like, okay, they're the Manson
Yeah.
family. And so like there's just like they're doing a weird dialogue with pop references. But
Yeah.
they're doing
That
it as yeah, but they're doing it, yeah, they're doing it like they know that they're in a Tarantino movie and what it's supposed to sound like, which is such a
Yeah.
weird way to do a Tarantino monologue because it didn't exist, when they were first doing them. So there was no
Right. And
stereotype.
it certainly didn't exist in the time period.
Well, that's, I mean, like it calls out the fact that it's totally a movie at this point.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. It's fine. I mean, it's not too bad, but like that the whole banter with the Manson family, I'm like, eh, in the car. Um, Here's the reason that, but it's in that Coke monologue that makes me believe that that thing that I was thinking about Tarantino, how he kind of ingested how what his influence on modern like machoism, and how like he might be responsible for school shooters and stuff. I don't think he is, but I think he may have thought that he is. Is he has her say this? Um, she's like, I've been taking a lot of acid and I've been on these trips. And she ends up with this idea. She's like, we have to kill the thing that's teaching us to kill every day. Um,
Oh.
right, right. And I was like, huh, Tarantino wrote that, right? Like, it's pretty clear that it's not this girl who's saying those things. It's from the script. But that let me pause, right? Where you go, thing. Maybe he has thought about what media does, and
Right.
maybe it's true, maybe it's not that violence in entertainment creates more violence. Maybe it's true, but I don't think it is. But I mean, it's a possibility. But he's started considering. We've talked about his use of violence in the end of his career, how it's very different. It's deliberate.
Yeah.
And
Right.
people
Yeah.
who does it is
Seems
good
like
and bad.
symbolic or, just like it seems to mean something more than just violence for the sake of violence. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we're definitely getting that. And that's why I think that in a lot of ways, this is his like crowning achievement because he's saying the things that he wants to say. It's not just entertainment anymore. Like, I think he's really going the full distance and like making statements that are about culture and about people. And I think it supports the ending that he chooses because of the same reason, because he wants it to be the way that he wants it to be. There's in his mind, there's no reason that it couldn't, except for the craziness of some people in the world that we live in. Um, anyway, we're almost to the end, so we're almost going to get to call this out. Um, there is the one moment where we were reminded that every Tarantino movie is actually a comedy, where the girl
Right.
is supposed to go with them into the house, and she says, "I've forgotten my knife," and goes back to the car and ditches them, which is an actual thing that happened. Not exactly that way, but one of the things they don't know about the case is why they had to hitchhike back. And so it's funny that he decided to make that the reason. It's because
Right.
a girl was
Super
like,
funny.
"Yep, nope, I'm not, I'm out." Y'all got
Yeah,
a
she's like,
little
"Fuck this.
crazy, yeah, yeah.
I am out of here."
So, yeah, there's that. Um, and then this. There's just the really subtle thing that happens when Cliff returns. So earlier they'd set up, he bought this cigarette with acid on it that you smoke, and it like lets you trip. And so he smoked it because it's like their last night together. He smoked it when he was taking the dog out for a walk. And then he comes back and it kicks in. Now, here's the joke that I want to share with you for like ever also. It, he's tripping acid and he flashbangs himself. Did you know that was such a universal experience?
What do you mean?
Getting flashbanged when you're on acid?
Like literally?
Yeah, isn't that like okay? So in the movie, right? Brad Pitt, he comes back from walking the dog. Oh, yeah, he's gonna get him some food. He turns on some lights. Yeah, and then I laughed.
Me personally, almost every time I've tripped, I've night tripped. So like, yes,
it's a common thing. Yeah, right. And you just flashbang yourself. Yes. You're like,
he's like, shit.
And he puts it back up. It's one of those like it's just subtle comedy. With Tarantino, like you just like. It's so funny that's it's serious, right? Like the Manson family is right outside their door, and then we have Cliff flashbanging himself. So
right, just LSD flashbang, and just like accidentally turns on the kitchen light. He's like,
right. We have the payoff of the long routine where we saw why we need to know that the dog is well trained. And of course, I couldn't figure it out, like what it was while we're watching it. It does go on for a while, so it's definitely Tarantino saying it's significant, and it's this. The Manson family decides to break into Dalton's house instead of the Tate's house because they're mad at the stuntman. They think they can take him out. But the stuntman's tripping, and so he's not taking it seriously at all. Also, he's a cool dude, and so this is not a big deal to him because he's definitely been in worse situations before. And then he sticks his trained dog on them, which it's pretty graphic. I mean, Tarantino apparently has a thing with dogs about how much violence they can do if they're put up to it. Because you remember in Django Unchained, of course, it's a plot point. But beyond that, also, I mean, this is time. It's a good dog doing good dog things to help its master, but goes to town. There's so much screaming and so much growling in this scene. Like, if you have fear of dogs, you should not be watching the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like that. I really love dogs. I think that they're cool. I know that all dogs are good boys except for ones that are good girls. So there's not like it's well trained dogs. That's the only difference. It's trained and untrained dogs. Is the big difference between them. Yeah, they can be used, and I think that Tarantino, the whole thing with violence is he points out in Django Unchained that a dog can be used for violence, but also a dog can be used for protection, as he shows at the end of this movie. Really fantastic sequence. You show that at no time is the dog out of control, and it's a big pit. And then when it's time for it to be done, Brad Pitt calls it off, and Cliff rather calls it off, and the dog retreats and goes back to doing his thing. Also, there's a fantastic face smash, which I feels really personal. Like it feels like Tarantino's like, this is what I wish I could do with you people. Just the same thing as he did with the leader of the German nation at the time of World War II. Right. At the end of Inglourious Basterds, he's like, this is what I wish I could do with you. And so, in his universe, that's the things that happen is actually Cliff, he got the upper hand on them and totally decimated, saving the day for Richard, who's oblivious to the whole thing.
Well, not entirely.
Except for, and let's talk about this. The girl who has been destroyed by the dog, rushes out, falls into the pool where Richard is. screams because of probably the chlorine is in her wounds, is randomly firing a gun. And you seem really excited about this sequence. You want to tell us last bit of the sequence, the final bits of the movie?
Well, this is part of it that stuck with me because I didn't realize why it was there.
Right. I mean, we saw a clip earlier that used this. Yeah.
So as you said, the young lady who had gotten obliterated by a canine breaks through a glass door and falls into the pool.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And she is firing her weapon uncontrollably.
Yeah.
Well, for some reason, and we get a call back to earlier in the movie, for some reason, Richard has an old prop right in the pool house.
Yeah. It's a huge
it's a flamethrower.
It's a huge flamethrower.
And it's just so ridiculous because he goes and he grabs this flamethrower.
So hang on, let's back up real quick and describe the scene, okay? So he's in like a spy movie, and he like has like some cool line to say as he pops out from behind a curtain, and from above a balcony, like shoots this flamethrower like 30 feet down at the floor, and lights everybody on fire around this like planning table. It's for one of the movies that he did. Anyway, so it's known to be like a large weapon. Please tell the rest of the story because it's so funny. This is Tarantino's always making comedy.
I do feel like it's important to note that he complained the fact that the flamethrower was too hot.
Oh yeah, exactly. And he had to train, and he's like, "Can we turn it down?" Yeah, and they're like, "It was too big and it was too hot." He's like, "It's a flamethrower."
So, like I said, this young lady falls into his pool. So what does he do but swim? Jump out of his little floaty that he's in, swim to the side of the pool, climb up, climb out, go to the pool house, get the flamethrower.
Get the flamethrower.
And just the poor lady who had absolutely been obliterated by dogs already, just flamethrower the top half of her body that's hanging out of water. Whatever parts of her body are treading water, he is flamethrowing.
Now, let me just comment really quick. I'm not laughing because I think that this type of violence is funny. I'm laughing because it comes out of nowhere and it's so over the top. It's like absolutely cartoony. It's like what you see in a zany comedy, not at the end of what you expected to be the Manson movie. Yeah. You're expecting to see Sharon Tate get killed, and instead the people who are going to do it, they get killed.
In outlandish ways.
Yeah, chewed up by dogs, throwing through the glass. I think it's the one who actually did the cutting on Tate. That's probably why she gets this like really vicious like ending. I think he dislikes her most of all. Why he singles her out, but I'm not really sure who that is within the case. If you guys want to comment below who that is. I think that's what he's doing. Thank you for doing the flamethrower bit. There is one post-credit scene that we'll talk about real quick, but this is one thing that I want to talk about. This, Your Honor, Dalton killed a girl who was not a threat to him anymore. He had the time to retreat to safety, but instead he decided to return with a weapon of his own. And Dalton should be tried for murder because he took it upon himself to kill what he saw as a scourge, as a temporary resident, like he himself was about to become. It wasn't.
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, excuse me. These are just my opening statements, Your Honor. It wasn't out of nowhere. There were subtle signs all along. Oh, I'm sorry. This is actually from a whole different thought there. But here's the thing. Sorry, that's the conclusion. We'll get to that in a second. He has complained about hippies all the time, and his big complaint about them is that they don't belong there. And you can see actually in his roots that he's afraid of becoming like them. And that's why he's so mad at the hippies. And so him killing a hippie girl because she didn't actually do the actions that we know that she would have done in the future, he just killed an innocent person because she's not guilty of future crimes. Yeah. And also he had time to retreat. Not only that, but her gun was almost empty. So even if he was afraid that he was going to get shot, he got out of firing range. He was in the shed, and then he took it upon himself to return. I will hear
with a flamethrower.
Yeah, with a it's not even a real weapon. Like he's not trying to like disarm her. he's definitely trying to torture her alive. There's no reasonable reason to use a flamethrower. But yeah, objections.
You ought to arrest my objection.
Like it's just and like Dalton is it's a little over the top, but also it's not. We were expecting to see the Manson murders happen in a house on the Carmia Piggy's diet, all that. Right. So that he had to give us something, and so that's why I understand like why that ending. It is super funny. It's not what we expected. Like I said, this whole movie is a Shaggy Dog joke where it doesn't go the place you thought. In fact, it goes into the silly direction that everything quiets down at the end of the movie. After the flamethrower, the cops all shake his hand, want his autograph and everything. He talks to the boyfriend of Sharon Tate, who's not Polanski, and they invite him to come over. And they all greet each other and be like, "Oh, we were just having a little party and everything was so nice. Oh, I can't believe you had such a crazy night." And then it pans up and the title comes up and says, "Once Upon a Time in Hollywood."
In Hollywood.
Yeah, he's like, "I told you from the very outset, this is what the movie was going to be. You didn't believe me because you thought I was Tarantino who was doing a Manson film. And so you fell for my joke."
When really I was Tarantino doing a Tarantino period piece.
I was doing 2 period pieces on a love story. Yeah, an homage to the period that he loves. Yeah.
It's just it was one of the more meta films I think he ever made.
It definitely, I mean, I think, yeah, it shows that he's mastered what it is to make a film. It's a film that's commenting about films, which is what what you're saying is meta. Absolutely.
It's a story inside of a story. Inside of a story, if you want to be honest, because you already have the Manson murders, right?
Yeah.
But then you have the outset story of Cliff and them. But then you also just have like the general Hollywood in the 60s.
Yeah, exactly. The making of history there. Yeah, and
it's really a pretty cool layered story that he was able to tell.
Now, here's something that I want to point out is that he didn't just do it for the sake of doing it. They all align with each other. Like the thing that's really cool about it is that it's in support. Like Dalton lived next door to the Tates, or lived next door to the Tate Polanski residence. So it becomes like plausible. There's some, like it's the there's a place that this exists, and it's just like the history of those locations. So yeah, like, and it's like he set up our expectations intentionally and then subverted them intentionally. That's why I think it's mastery. It wasn't just like meta for the sake of being meta, but like he used that again as on all those levels. Wow. Okay. So as we're getting to the end of an almost 3-hour long podcast on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I'm sure that you know by now, I think is a wonderful masterpiece of Tarantino's work. There's so many little things in and out. I just I'm getting worn out. So like that's all I was like, wow, I did not think that, first of all, it would gonna take all this long. Remember we were trying to do all of Tarantino in one episode.
Man, there was no way.
And then last week,
as much as I had to say and as much as you were gonna have to say about just how Tarantino makes a movie, I knew this was gonna be a multiple part thing as soon as we did it.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, we no disrespect to the directors that we've done before or since. We don't spend as much time on them, but I definitely think that for one, I think we are seeing a complete filmography, and also we're seeing something unique, which is where Tarantino is mostly doing everything that he wants to do. There's one, like I said, there's one noted exception, but I think with a lot of other directors, you see that they get hired, which is good for them. I don't say it's bad to get hired, but like you see them doing other people's movies, and I think mostly what we're seeing is it was in his films, pure Tarantino. So I'm glad that we did take a look at it. Any thoughts overall? I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or as Tarantino as a director, now that we've gotten through all that?
Man, just what a journey we've had. over the last few weeks. Just just looking over everything that Tarantino has to offer.
Yeah. There's definitely more than I had expected.
And I definitely know that there's things that, I probably wanted to say that I didn't say that we could probably revisit in like a part 5, like just epilogue episode. But
I need to move on. I love Tarantino, but I can't. I need to move on. We have so many other things to talk about.
But no, I was gonna say too that would also require me going to listen to like 3 2-hour-long podcasts,
homie,
about Quentin Tarantino.
You need
there was something that I didn't say.
Yeah, no, that's me every day. Just trying to get them. And this one, you know what? Congratulations to us. We tried to keep as clean as possible. There's only a few F-bombs dropped here and there, and maybe some other questionable things.
I think I got away. But I think I did 4 Fs and 2 S's.
All right, well, sweet.
2 or 3 Fs.
Just
takes I think is what I did.
It makes things the editing a little bit easier. But yeah, no, we'll get to listen back, and that's also why I know what we talked about because I listened up to it. I do think it's interesting. So if you guys like this one, it's just about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and you want to look back at the rest of Tarantino's films and our thoughts on them, please do. One of the things about this show is that we wanted to do something a little bit different. I think there's a lot of critics who like to critique films, and not a whole lot of people who talk about how much they love films. I definitely started this one being like, you know what, I'm going to go check it out because I know that Logan loves Tarantino. So at the very least, we'll get to talk about how much he loves Tarantino, and we can talk about why that is. But then it turns out I love Tarantino too. Because he's a big film nerd, and so how can you not love that about a dude? So we just like to talk about things we like, and Tarantino is one of them. We're going to talk about The Substance hopefully next week, which is a movie that I definitely like. It's Barry Cronenberg. What'd you have to say, Logan?
I need to check that out.
My headphone is actually dying. But yeah, no, Logan has been a producer. He's a writer. We're working on episode 3 right now, and an actor on the show Cox in Space. We should call that out. You should check us out, coxinspace.com, coxinspace.com. You can get connected with our Patreon, with our Facebook, with YouTube, if you want to check out all the shows that we're doing. And then also you can email us at skip@wigwags.us and reach out to me personally there. This has been a really fun journey, guys. We're not going to make 3 hours. I'm good. I'm really glad that we did it. And we're going to wrap it up. So 2:45 is, I think, just about the same amount of time as a Tarantino film to talk about his Tarantino film. So thank you guys for listening this far into it. This is me, Skip Morazi, writer, producer for Cox in Space. This is behind the scenes Cox in Space, where we're working the animation called Flicking with Skip, joined here with Logan Gifford, my good friend. You can check him out on Instagram at Young Remorse, YUNG Remorse, and check out all of his posting. So thank you again, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Adios. Hey, everybody, it's Logan Gifford of the Cox and Space crew. Here with Skip and Morazi to come in with a little postscript edit for the Quentin Tarantino Part 3 podcast.
Yeah, so I thought it was weird because if you sit to the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and you roll to the end of the credits, now there is a post-credit scene where he's smoking a cigarette, and it's the Apple brand cigarettes, which they mention in a bunch of movies.
The red Apple cigarettes.
The red Apple cigarettes.
Oh, these suck. These are dog. And that's like the tobacco that every other Tarantino movie uses. Is
exactly
super funny to me.
Exactly. I thought that was so hilarious too. I saw it in Django Unchained and just laughed because of the reference. Obviously, the Tarantino universe. But that's not the post-credit scene I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one after that, and it's not really a scene. You just let the credits roll out. You get to the very end. Basically where it shows the MPAA symbol and we didn't hurt any animals, all those statements down at the end of the movie. It gets to the end, and then you hear from a classic like Batman and Robin, from the 60s and 70s. It's like, we've hidden the phone number in this episode. If you paid close attention, you can find what the bat number is and you can dial it to win this special prize. And it's like a TV or something. But it's interesting. I couldn't find anything online about anyone who was talking about like this hidden number that they put in there. Somebody did mention that it was there, but it was just like an homage. But I just thought it was odd that it was like at the end of the episode after the credits. It definitely feels like there's something hidden in the movie that we haven't discovered yet, at least like common knowledge. And I wanted to throw that out there to see if anyone has any thoughts. Logan, you have any thoughts?
This would be fun. And I mean, even also, like it could be like like numerology among scenes, like you see like a 5 in one scene or like a 2 in another one, like it could be spread out the whole movie, like it's
see, that's what I'm thinking.
That would be something that Tarantino would do. It's not just going to be shown for one frame type of, you have to scrub the movie frame by frame to see it. He's going to show it to you, but he's going to show it to you in pieces.
Yeah, and that
is what I would say probably.
That is definitely the I mean, like, it just seemed like something Tarantino would do. And I wouldn't put it past him to have done it. And so that's why I'm curious. And again, I haven't seen anything. I did some brief looking, in order for us for this podcast, but also I do a lot of other things too. So I didn't get a chance to like deep dive into it, but I am interested. Again, comment below if you guys have the ability to, or you know anything about, anyone who knows anything about this. Because I when I watched the movie, I didn't see anything that popped out that seemed to blend that way, or if there was anything like Batman related that seemed distinct in any way. But maybe some super fans who are more super fans than me can tell us. Anyway, thank you, Logan.
Adam West Batman back there in the 60s.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think that's the voice of it. It's definitely like the classic Batman that I remember. The fun, like, campy show with spandex and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know why they're like vaguely homoerotic. Because I mean, why is he dressing the orphan boy in like Spanx?
Anyway, guys.
Oh yeah, so
Morazi.
This is more like a post. Yeah, this is what you catch in the Discord if you hang out with us afterwards. Here's a postscript. It does actually apply to Tarantino. Sorry, Batman fans. I'll talk to you later.